Sir, could you join, sir? Srinivas garu, webmaster Srinivas garu.
Hello, madam.
Sir, Rajendra Prasad garu join ayyaru and video man kanpinచట్లేదు ఒకసారి చూస్తారా sir?
Sure, madam.
Rajendra Prasad.
Okay. Start my video. Yes.
Sir. Sir, Professor Rajendra Prasad, sir.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, sir. We could see you.
Yes. Could you hear me?
You are audible also, sir.
Okay, great. Good morning to
Yes.
both of you. Professor Ramesh and
Yeah, good morning, sir. Our Honorable Vice Chancellor is already here. So let us commence the program, sir. Madam.
Yeah, sir.
Madam, you may commence the program. Sir,
Yes, sir.
request
Sir is here only, sir. Shall I call, sir?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. 1 minute.
Madam, could you inform, sir?
Yes, sir. Just now I informed, sir. Sir said okay. I think he's coming. Could you see, sir? I think.
Yeah, I can see his window, but is at
Yes, sir. Sir's window and speaker's window, if pinned, it will be good, no, sir? Can we let webmaster Srinivas, sir?
madam, please.
అది స్పీకర్స్ సార్ సజన నేను మా వీడియో స్పిన్ చేస్తే స్క్రీన్ షాట్ ఏమైనా తీయచ్చేమో ప్రెస్ కోసం.
They will take it.
సార్ సార్ జాయిన్ అయిపోయారు సార్ విసి సార్?
లేదు మేడం,
ఇంకా రాలేదు సార్. సార్
Good morning, Professor Narasimha.
Rajendra Prasad, after a long time, I could see him, at least virtually.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Andy. How are you?
Good morning, sir.
Sir, good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Shall we commence the program, sir?
Yeah, first of all, let me greet our experts today.
Sir, this is
Professor
Professor Rao, sir, Professor Narasimha Rao from the English and
Narasimha
Foreign Languages
Rao. Okay. Narasimha Rao garu, namaste. Bagunara?
University. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Okay.
this is Professor Rajan Prasad, sir.
Rajan Prasad, sir, namaste. How are you? Thanks for accepting our invitation, both of you, and you are here
Thank you.
to share your knowledge on the English language and literature. Thank you.
Sir, shall we
Let-
commence, sir?
Please.
Sir, thank you, sir. Honorable Vice Chancellor, distinguished speakers, invitees, and participants, good morning to one and all. Meeting you all in the virtual platform, I feel we all slept in an open world of freedom and woke up into the world of restrictions, compelled to meet only in the virtual platforms amidst closed doors. Though the physical doors are closed, the doors of knowledge and imagination are open wider than in the pre-COVID-19 lockdown. As we witness it in our universities striding towards excellence under the charismatic leadership of our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Mokka Jagannath Rao Garu. We are very happy to see you all in this virtual symposium, and I welcome you all once again to the virtual symposium. Our today's chief guest, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Mokka Jagannath Rao Garu, distinguished speakers, Professor CHA Rajendra Prasad Garu from Dravidian University, Kuppam, and Professor K. Narasimha Rao Garu from English and Foreign Languages University, Hyderabad, respected Registrar of our University, Professor T. Ashok, respected Principal, University College of Arts and Commerce, Professor S. Teki, Senior Faculty and Chairman PGBOS in English, Professor Koti Sri Ramesh, and Principals of our University Colleges, Dr. K. Ramaneshwari, Dr. Persis Vula, and Dr. Supparao Garu, and Special Officer Akno, MSN Campus Kakinada, Kamal Kumari Madam, Deans of various administrative sections, university officers, heads, and course coordinators of various departments, and my dear faculty, members of all departments, and the webmaster and his team, research scholars, and the department, and last but not least, my loving students. Once again, I wish you all a good morning and a warm welcome to participate in the virtual symposium. Today's academic gathering is possible only due to the relentless motivation and perpetual encouragement of our dynamic Vice Chancellor, Professor Mokka Jagannath Rao Garu. Sir, the Department of English extends heartfelt thanks for your continuous support in all aspects. At this juncture, I am very much delighted to share with you all that in spite of all the COVID-19 pandemic, lockdowns, etc., the sudden lockdowns imposed, our university stood as a #1 institution that could continue the academic activity without break, and also is successful in organizing webinars, virtual FDPs, workshops, and symposiums, and which are nearly going to reach 100 in number. All this was possible only due to the indomitable spirit of our Honorable Vice Chancellor, who is a very truly charismatic leader. With these few words of welcome, I now request our registrar, Professor T. Ashok Garu, to greet the symposium participants.
I think Jyotirmai, unmute your mic.
Yes, sir.
I think our registrar is busy with the AICTE a preparation of some report or something.
Okay,
So,
sir.
so you just
Shall I?
you proceed with the next
Yes, sir. Yeah.
next item.
Sir, I request our principal, Professor Teki Garu. Now, sir is also not available. Sir, I now request our senior professor, Sir K.S. Ramesh Garu, to give the aim of the symposium, sir.
Yeah. Good morning, all of you. Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor M. Jagannath Rao Garu, the Chief Patron of this symposium, Registrar University, Professor T. Ashok, Principal, Professor S. Teki, today's speakers, Professor C.H. Rajendra Prasad, Department of English, Dravid University, Kuppam, Professor K. Narasimha Rao, English and Foreign Language University, Hyderabad, fellow principals, deans and students, and scholars of English department. It is indeed a great pleasure for me today to offer a few opening remarks on this symposium. At the outset, let me acknowledge my gratefulness to both the speakers for readily accepting our invitation. Professor Rajendra Prasad was a senior colleague of mine and a well-known scholar in Andhra Pradesh. I had the opportunity to work with him in a couple of assignments relating to English language skills by the Andhra Pradesh State Council of Higher Education. Unlike many language teachers, he is not a person to be carried away by jargon and is very clear about the role and functions of English language skills and how they should be imparted. Right from the colonial times, we have made English language learning and teaching only for a specific purpose. But that is not the way a language is learned. Language is both communication and culture. And of all the 4 skills of language, writing has taken a backseat in the recent times. Professor Rajendra Prasad has rightly taken up the topic of writing skills, which is the need of the hour. Professor K. Narasimha Rao, I can comfortably call him my younger brother. He is a reputed scholar in both literature and language teaching. I'm sure the topic that he is going to speak will open up the varied dimensions of contemporary Indian English literature. Indian English literature is now the repository of the diverse voices of India, its numerous cultures, and is now a canon in itself. In my days at Harvard University, at the turn of the millennium, I was surprised to hear some of my classmates asking me about Arundhati Roy. My teacher at Harvard, Professor Biden Jaifo, in course of discussion, made a wonderful remark about her. Oh, Arundhati Roy, I'm quoting him. Oh, Arundhati Roy, she has turned the English language inside out in her novel, God of Small Things. I understood then that Indian English literature has come of age. I'm happy that we're able to organize this symposium at a time when our research scholars are in the process of finalizing their topics and areas. The credit goes to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor M. Jagannath Rao Garu, in encouraging us to organize this symposium. It is due to his untiring efforts to create a truly quality academic ambience in the university that we are able to invite such eminent speakers. It is for the benefit of our speakers that I wish to inform that under the leadership of our Honorable Vice Chancellor, we are able to organize more than 100 webinars, faculty development programs, and symposiums since the first wave lockdown. He took interest in all these virtual events by ensuring his presence and addressing them. His numerous initiatives to improve the quality of education at Adikavan University include many fronts, from rainwater harvesting pits, increasing green cover, to ISO certification, and establishing a sports stadium with the help of Sports Authority of India. A weekly journal, Nannaya Vani, is released every week, covering all developments and information in the campus. Very recently, due to his efforts, a biodiversity park in collaboration with Andhra Pradesh Forest Department is coming up on our Kakinada campus. Even though we are facing difficulties like the rest of the world due to the pandemic, the university under his leadership is making rapid strides in improving the academic quality. The government of Andhra Pradesh has very recently acknowledged that Adikav Nannaya as the best performing university as far as imparting online education is concerned. So without wasting time, I now request my colleague, Dr. Sajana Raj, to introduce our Honorable Vice Chancellor to our speakers and audience. Thank you very much. Sajana?
What to you, Sajana?
Good morning, all of you.
Yeah.
Good morning, the Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor M. Jagannath Rao Garu, the respected Registrar, Ashok Sir, Principal of University College of Arts and Commerce, Teki Sir, Remedeshwari Madam, Persis Madam, Subarao Sir, PG Board of Studies Chairman, Ramesh Sir, Head of the Department, Jyotimay Madam, the speakers of Symposium, Narasimha Rao Sir, Rajendra Prasad Sir, my colleagues, scholars, students, and all other participants. So it's indeed a privilege for me to introduce the eminent Vice Chancellor, our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Mokka Jagannath Rao. He completed his education in India and abroad. He got his master's degree in engineering from University of Alaska, USA. He got his PhD from Andhra University, Visakhapatnam in the year 1985. He joined as assistant professor in the Department of Geology, Andhra University in 1986, and later promoted to professor and head of the department. He's a serious researcher and academician who has more than 33 years of experience in both teaching and research. He has published nearly 150 papers in national and international journals. 33 scholars got awarded PhD under his guidance. His students are not only from geology, but from computer science, geoengineering, geophysics, and allied physics. He has strong research collaboration with various organizations from the USA, Canada, and Australia. He's completed 8 funded projects from leading funding agencies of this country, including DST, UGC, CSIR, DOD, APMDC, DMR2 UF, MOES, ISRO, ONGC. He got very prestigious consultancy projects from the ONGC. They are studies on Holocene evolution of Mahanadi Delta, studies on land subsidence due to hydrocarbon exploration and exploitation at KG-PG Basin, AP using remote sensing and field studies. He has a vast experience in administration. He held various administrative positions: Director for Information Management Center, Andhra University, Dean for PG and Professional Examinations, Andhra University, Director for International Students Affairs, Andhra University, Director for Delta Studies Institute, Andhra University, Chairman for Board of Studies, Department of Geosciences, Ambedkar University, Srikakulam, Head of the Department of Geology, Andhra University. He has filed a patent entitled An Inventive Model that explains the genesis of Bay of Bengal and Arabian Sea, which is under consideration. He got many awards and honors, including Dr. Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan Award, the Best Academician Award of the year 2019 by Andhra University. He was awarded Scientist of the Year 2017 by National Environmental Science Academy, NESA, New Delhi. He was in editorial board of Indian Journal of Environment and Eco-Planning. He is a member of various professional scientific bodies of national and international repute. He is an NAC assessor and many other positions he had actually decorated. He is a member in various boards of selection committees at national and state level. His earlier selections include UPSC Civil Services Group B Service, UPSC exam in 1984, UPSC Geologist examination, All India 11th rank in 1983. He was very passionate for teaching, so he actually shifted to this profession. His vision is to see Adhikavi Nanda University coming to the higher levels. When Adhikavi Nanda University can claim itself as an international institute of choice for education, research, training, and consultancy. And we know that ever since our Vice Chancellor took charge of the office, there's actually, our university has taken giant strides in the journey to progress. So thank you all.
Thank you, Sajna, for introducing our chief guest, our Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir. Sir?
Yeah.
Sir, can you permit Teki sir to greet the house for 2 minutes?
Yeah,
Please join.
go ahead. Yes.
Sir,
Yes, no
I request Professor Teki sir to greet the participants of the symposium.
Madam, I apologize for delay in joining. Esteemed Vice Chancellor, Professor Mokka Jagannath Rao Garu, the Head and Course Director, Dr. Jyotimay Garu, my faculty colleagues, and respected delegates, registrar, and all of the faculty members. Indeed, it is my great privilege to greet you on this virtual forum on webinar on English language skills. and the department of English is one of the vibrant departments. And last week only, our Honorable Vice Chancellor just motivated us to bring out from Arts and Commerce College in his guidance, and immediately Department of English and Dr. Jyotirmai has taken initiation to bring it this particular webinar. And I hope the webinar will be very fruitful and deliberations will be useful for inputs in relevant policy makings. I thank all the organizers, participants, and the Honorable Vice Chancellor for giving me this opportunity to greet on this occasion. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Professor Teki, sir. Sir is also always encouraging in whatever aspects we do. Thank you once again, sir, for being a part of this symposium and greeting all success. Sir, I now request our Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, to address the symposium, sir.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Jyotirmai, convener of today's webinar. And I'm happy to greet our experts today, Professor Rajendra Prasad, Professor Narasimha Rao, and my registrar, Professor Ashok, and Principal of College of Arts, Professor Teki, Principal College of Science, Professor Ramaneshwari, Senior Professor and Executive Council Member, Special Officer Tadapalligudam, Professor Ramesh, and other colleagues, especially we have my friend here, Dr. Sharma, a scientist from NGRI, kind enough to join in all these. He's joining in all webinars of ours, and all other students, research scholars, friends, ladies and gentlemen. Very good morning to all of you. I'm extremely happy to see yet another webinar from our Adhikavi Nannaya University. As Professor Ramesh indicated that we have been keeping ourselves busy, and to see that the academic activity is on continuous basis, and we don't want to leave our students to relax, and we want to keep their morale very high, even in this pandemic, by giving all the necessary academic inputs, whether it's online classes or the webinars or other invited talks, etc. I'm happy that all our faculty who are very talented, they are taking up this challenge during this pandemic to see this academic activity is continued, for which we are here, being a university and being educators in this center of excellence. I'm very happy to be part of this today's virtual symposium on English language skills and contemporary Indian writing in English. I feel it is not virtual symposium, it is a symposium on virtual platform, if I'm correct. It is a symposium, it is true, but it is on virtual platform. So that is, maybe we are not from English, but this is a layman, it's my doubt, maybe I need to be corrected. So this is a very good topic as far as we are all scientists. Whenever we talk about English language, we are very scared to speak before English experts. So we have apprehensions because we may talk something wrong. But we always feel we want to master this language. Without English, without the language skills, a scientist cannot flourish. So when I was in US, my professor, Professor Dan Walsh, he said, Moka, your English is not up to the mark. Why don't you go and take a class in technical writing in English? So I used to sit with all these Asian, especially people from China and others. We used to sit in the class. Our madam used to teach how to present in English, especially how to write technically. So her class was so practical and very innovative. She used to give us some pictures like a transistor, camera, and a calculator, or a TV, pictures like that. the first class, okay, you write a user manual for the gadget given to you. So we need to write the user manual so that a non-technical person can understand how to use that gadget. So that is the first class. So then she used to collect all these written user manuals on different gadgets, then used to read one by one and used to correct how it should be precisely to be written like that. So in that way, next class, she used to give some scientific chapter. May not be from geology, maybe it is from life science or engineering or anything. We have to read that chapter and we need to write the abstract on it. So in that way, very practical way, she used to teach us, she used to improve our language skills in technical writing. So in this way, whenever we talk about English, I always happy to know that in India, we have more number of English-speaking people than the country of its origin, UK. So it is another distinction in that way. So we are extremely happy to know that we are good at English. More number of people are there in this country speaking English. I always say that all our students need to improve their English skills. Whether they're written English or spoken English, we need to see that our students are good at English, because especially from South India, whenever I appear as a member of UPSC, our students from South are unable to present themselves in the interview because of the language skills, their lack of language skills. So they have the subject, but unable to present properly because of this lack of proper language skills. So we have taken up this issue in our university with maybe with the help of our English department, which is very strong. Definitely we'll conduct some classes after this pandemic so that our students will be, and especially the research scholars will be good at in writing English language. Similarly, when we talk about this contemporary Indian writing in English, as I could see that when the contemporary English means the English literature after the Second World War, I understand that. Whenever any issue of the contemporary nature, the literature, the writers should be helping all of us in registering and recording the events of that time. So that is the greatest thing. Even their works will record and register the happenings of that time. So they're not only of literary value, they're of historical value. So in that way, they're registering and they're just freezing what has happened during that time. Suppose the corona pandemic, maybe many of the writers must be writing how a family affected by corona struggled during this time. So that will help to know after some time how corona was there at the time, how the families, because the minutest details at a family level, a father is gone and mother is died and children are helpless. So that is a kind of good topic, good content to be written by a person having these skills of writing. So in this way, the contemporary, when there is a change, all these events of that country, of a given country, will become the themes for these writers. So a writer should have that kind of social responsibility to attempt such topics. So there's not only give them an immense satisfaction, but also help the future generations to know what has happened, how the people have suffered or people have undergone such events or such times. So that is one thing we need to understand. We have excellent writers. To name a few: R.K. Narayan, Mulkaraj Anand, Raja Rao, Arundhati Roy, etc., who made us, all these Indian writers, proud at international level. I'm extremely happy to have these two great experts of English language today, who will be delivering the lectures on two important topics. One is the writing skills, and other is the contemporary writing in India in English language. Definitely the scholars will be inspired by them. They'll take all these inputs when they are working on the PhDs or other academic aspects. Thank you very much. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for all the important issues that you have touched upon. So you have reminded that writers have the responsibility towards the society. And in fact, literature is the child of society only, sir. Thank you for all the remarks and encouragement once again, sir. With your permission, we'll continue with the proceedings of the symposium. Now I request our research scholar in the department, A. Swati, to introduce the speaker, Professor Narasimha Rao. Over to Swati. Swati, unmute yourself. Yeah, webmaster, sir, please unmute Swati.
Honorable dignitaries, my dear co-scholars, ladies and gentlemen, good morning to one and all. It's my honor to introduce our today's speaker, Professor Narasimha Kedari. Professor Narasimha Kedari is currently Head of Department of Indian and World Literatures, School of Literary Studies, the English and Foreign Languages University, Hyderabad. Before Professor Narasimha Kedari joined the ranks of EFL University, Hyderabad, he was Assistant Professor and had in charge Department of English at Vikram Singhapuri University, Nellore. He held several administrative positions at Vikram Singhapuri University for over a decade and joined the EFL University, Hyderabad in 2017. Apart from his teaching and research, he is discharging duties as the Director, Internal Quality Assessment Cell, IQAC, Protocol Officer of the University and Coordinator, UGC MHRD Affairs, New Delhi, at the English and Foreign Languages University, Hyderabad. Professor Rao, top rank in English literature and Indian history at UG level and ranked second in MA English from Acharya Nagarjuna University, Guntur. He has a rewarding research experience with 18 international publications in Scopus and internationally indexed journals on new literatures, English language teaching, Indian writing in English, and Dalit literature. He has 22 chapters in edited books from international publishing houses and 7 national publications. He authored 2 books in new literatures and edited 4 books, out of which 2 books are in English language teaching. 3 PhDs were awarded under his resourceful guidance in South African literature, Indian writing in English, and linguistics. Professor Narasimha Kedari showed administrative flair in holding several administrative positions as Public Relations Officer, Public Information Officer, Nodal Officer, All India Survey on Higher Education, New Delhi, Nodal Officer, UGC Online Students Grievance Cell. Professor Rao co-authored textbook, Cognitive and Communication Skills, which is now prescribed to the undergraduate students in Andhra Pradesh. Professor Rao is a university ranker, as I have already mentioned it, and he delivered resourceful talks in Sri Venkateswara University, Tirupati, and Karnataka State Women's University, Bijapur, Karnataka. He is cited internationally in post-colonial studies and in language education. Professor Rao was awarded Distinguished Faculty in Post-Colonial Studies by Venus International Foundation in 2016. Now, I take the pleasure of inviting our speaker, Professor Narasimha Kedari, to deliver his valuable lecture on the postmodernist analysis in the contemporary Indian English literature. Thank you. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you very much, Swati. Ms. Swati, for introducing me, the kind words that you have spoken about me. So it is just reviewing my past at a quick glance. Thank you for keeping my past before me before I just render my talk on postmodernism and what are the analogies of postmodernism in the Indian context, and especially we see in contemporary Indian English literature. So I'm not bringing any PowerPoint before you because I have very little time to prepare a PowerPoint. But I think I can present my points to you, my viewpoints to you about the postmodernism on all the aspects, and at the same time how we can really look at each writer, the contemporary Indian writers, how they have presented the postmodernism in various contexts of the coexistence of contraries that are very much prevalent in Indian situation. So before I render my talk, I would like to thank Professor Mokka Jagannath Rao Garu, Honorable Vice Chancellor of Adikavi Nannaya University, who is with us, and also Professor K. Ramesh Garu, as he has very appropriately said, he's my elder brother, and who is also my ideal. We were together very recently at the English and Foreign Languages University on some confidential work. And Professor Teki Garu, who was the principal of Adikavi Nannaya University, and the renowned scholars who are with me in Indian English literature and also in various fields, working in various fields, and young scholars and students who joined this webinar. For some extra insights, I am going to demonstrate what you already know, but with a new insight into the things. So without much delay, I would like to just take a plunge into the topic, that is postmodern analogies in the contemporary Indian English literature. So Western scholars, if you just look at the Western scholars, how they have formulated their postmodern tendencies or postmodern strains based on what we call the tendencies that were existing in the Western society. So they cannot look at the Oriental cultures or the cultures which they don't know. So whatever that is prevalent and what in whichever culture they were existing, they just looked at the culture and they presented the postmodern traits. And even if you look at Jean-Francois Lyotard's notes on the postmodern condition, if you just look at the preface, page number 23, we get an extensive insight that he himself, Lyotard himself, restricts his knowledge, or the study is restricted only to the condition of knowledge that is prevalent in the most advanced societies in the West. So that is a point that we have to keep in mind before we just look at what is postmodernism and how we can really apply it or attribute it to the Indian scenario. So the same thing, the same kind of condition, what Lyotard has proposed in preface to the notes on the postmodern condition, the same thing has been again proposed by Zygmunt Bauman, another postmodern scholar. And he also had the similar view that the condition of knowledge in the Western society is actually restricted postmodernism, and postmodernism is whatever the kind of fragmentation and multifariousness that we see in postmodernism is very much prevalent in the Western societies that can be attributed to the upcoming societies, or what we call the developing societies in the East or elsewhere. So another important thing is this postmodernism has spread far and wide, and the most prominent thing for this spreading or permeating of this postmodernism is nothing but the world has grown too much interdependent and interrelated because of this globalization tendency. And what we call this permeating of this postmodernism also made postmodernism to engage with what we call the third world, which we call or post-colonial, or at the same time, we also call this a Commonwealth world. So this is Commonwealth is a restricted term, while we have today a post-colonial world where every country that wants that wants a kind of representation and identity in the political and cultural ethos. So all these figure in this post-colonial scenario. So whatever we call this third world or postmodern or post-colonial, postmodernism has to engage with this with the existing world, and at the same time, the important reason is that when the other part of the world, for example, the Western world is has adopted a model of development, and this model of development, we also, India as a developing country, has to find itself in this Western model of development too. And we cannot just derelict it, and we cannot abandon it and see ourselves in an isolated realm. So that is the important thing. And postmodernism, that is the reason why postmodernism must engage with this third world, post-colonial, and whatever the commonwealth that we believe. Because the only thing is, when the Western part of the world is following a model, a particular model, India is bound to find itself in the West, in the postmodern situation of the West too. So, presenting this particular theoretical background, I would like to just tell you that India presents a glaring example, because when we take postmodernism as a theoretical background for studying Indian English literature, the contemporary Indian English literature, so we see that the postmodernism presents. India presents a glaring example of the coexistence of contraries, and the coexistence of contraries is one of the main features of this postmodernism. So the conflicting tendencies exist in the society, and these conflicting tendencies are very much a postmodern tendency. And what kind of things we find, what kind of contraries we find in the Indian society? We find the super rich and the pauper, and at the same time we have the glittery and the gloomy existing side by side, and the elite and the underdog, and at the same time we have the the learned persons and the ignorant living in the same society. That's why I would like to just mention Arundhati Roy, who wrote her non-fictional writing called Algebra of Infinite Justice. If you can refer to, this was 2001. In page number 189, she refers to that India lives in several centuries at the same time, and India, it progresses and regresses simultaneously. A very apt word that we can say, and a very apt word that we can just attribute to the Indian condition. So India lives in several centuries, and at the same time we progress and regress simultaneously. So this particular tendency shows that India is a society in which the colonial tendency has not yet ended. If you just look at the colonial realm still continues, and at the same time there are other coexistences in the same society, and the post-colonial exists side by side with the post-colonial. This is another tendency that has come into the scenario. So India is a society where the colonial tendencies have not yet ended. At the same time, the post-colonial exists side by side with the post-colonial. If we keep all these words together, and if we dump all these words together and keep it in a welter, we can say that postmodern is the term that can aptly suit. And postmodern is nothing but it includes everything. It includes fragmentation, it includes multifariousness, it includes contrary tendencies, and at the same time the communal identities, the pluralistic presence, and the acceptance of pluralistic presence. All these put together in a welter, this is called the postmodernism. And Emma Dawson-Voorhees, I would like to mention the famous scholar, postmodern scholar, Emma Dawson-Voorhees. She referred to the existence of the post-colonial and the post-colonial in the developing world. So the post-colonial and the post-colonial, according to her, post-colonial has come to an end with the post-colonial in the society that is predominant in the society. And on the plea that she showed the reason, Emma Dawson-Voorhees showed the reason that post-colonial has outlived its importance. Now the post-colonial does not have any relevance because the post-colonial has come into existence. Because the post-colonial, the literature that is written in the post-colonial scenario principally focuses on the native culture. And it is a revisitation of the native culture. And this revisitation of the native culture is, while it is more concerned about the native culture, it is not at all obsessed with the wrongs of the colonial tendencies. Remember, so the wrongs of the colonial tendencies are totally given up, and they are at the background, though they occupy a kind of subconscious presence in the mind. But the literature that is written in the post-colonial scenario actually focuses on what we call the native culture, the native cultural tendencies, and the communal identities and communal traditions. So let me just refer to an important thing here. So how these tendencies, these communal tendencies or the pluralistic presence in the society get reflected in the Indian situation, in the Indian contemporary Indian English literature, in the postmodern condition with postmodern strains. So before I just render my my extra insights, theoretical insights on the postmodern, I would like to tell you that postmodern tendencies are not prescriptive in nature. Remember, these are not prescriptive in nature, and as these are not in the case of any other society. Remember that, and these are only descriptive in nature. So these never really lay a particular emphasis that this particular tendency, this train has to be followed in the society. Because postmodernism is nothing but a dynamic concept which includes everything. That's why I think I can refer to Larry Scott. Larry Scott in Sociology of Postmodernism, you can refer to. Sociology of Postmodernism says, if you want to contain postmodernism, it overspills. That's why it is very much a mistaken attempt on the part of the individual to contain postmodernism. We cannot contain postmodernism because it overspills. So that's why it knew no boundaries. So if we just take this condition into to fulfill the Indian situation, how we can revisit this condition in Indian scenario. So every postmodern condition is descriptive in nature as the globalization process advances in various degrees and in various concerns of the society. So at this point, I would like to just apply this postmodern condition or postmodern strains, how we can revisit these postmodern strains in the contemporary Indian English literature written by various writers who are very prominent and at the same time who are called the literary writers, the cultural literary writers of the Indian Indian English literature. So, as I told you in the beginning itself, that postmodernism is an acceptance rather than a celebration of the coexistence of contraries. Just we have to accept it because it is not a celebration. Don't go for rejoicing of what we call the existence of the contrary conditions that are prevailing in the society. It is just an open acceptance. So if we just accept it, another question prevails in the scenario that why India is offering a kind of hedonistic tendency, because India offers a kind of hedonistic tendency because of the commodification and what we call the cultural ethos that are changing according to globalization. At the same time, we also see an opposite tendency at the same time. The opposite tendency is religious essentialism. Religious essentialism is prevailing on one side, and at the same time, we are also presenting a strain called hedonism, which is totally disposed towards pleasure as a result of the consumer culture that has come into scenario because of the globalization. So it presents the Indian situation presents, Indian condition presents an exact scenario of postmodern fragmented living. And it also invites acceptance rather than the celebration of the coexistence of contraries. So if we just look at, there is a belief that science and rationality, if we just go back to the humanist tendency of Matthew Arnold was of the view that science and rationality has taken the wind out of religion, because in the Victorian age, this kind of strain or this particular argument prevailed very much. And science and rationality took over, and it has taken the wind out of religion. And it was also suggested that art would be a substitute to religion, but it did not happen. And at that point of time, there was, after this particular strain of humanism went on for several years, there was new critics came, and again, the modernism came, and the modernist philosophy was entirely focused on the essentialism or existentialism. And the postmodern condition just crossed that boundary and said, and these, even the science and rationality, which was propounded by people like what we call the people who established the Royal Society, like Saint Beuah or Richard Bew, all these people who said that that science and rationality will take over and has taken the wind out of religion, and art will be a substitute to religion. All these things have become the vestiges of enlightenment. So these have become the vestiges of enlightenment, and now we can see that these are not totalizing narratives. Totalizing narrative is totally dependent on enlightening the people. Narratives which give a kind of enlightenment or the process of universalization which happens throughout the world, a kind of objective outlook, that cannot prevail. And that's why even Chinua Achebe says that universalism is a kind of dog shit. And the strain called universality or universalism existing in literature is a kind of dog shit. And this cannot prevail because in the post-colonial condition, even the post-colonial got absorbed into postmodernism. The post-colonial strains obviously got absorbed into postmodernism. And if you look at this particular condition, to me, this in postmodernism there is a thing called a meta-narrative thing. Meta-narrative is nothing but a story about a story. Whatever the novel that a writer writes, or an essay that was written by a writer, it is about the present condition with an element of myth in it. What is myth? Myth is nothing but speaking about a story in present tense, according to Northrop Frye. So presenting a story in present tense is nothing but myth, according to Northrop Frye. And if you just look at this, these are totalizing narratives which aim at enlightenment of the society. These are simply called, according to Lyotard. Lyotard even went to the extent of questioning that science and rationality are also totalizing narratives because they wanted to enlighten the society. And no one can enlighten the society. That is very important. No one can enlighten the society, and that was the basic problem even with the colonial tendencies also. They thought that it is a white man's burden to enlighten the society and to make the savages of the world cultured and to bring a civilization, a uniform civilization across the world. And that cannot be done. And this strain, this particular argument of maintaining universalism or universality in literature, or bringing a kind of enlightenment is nothing but an outspoken term in the postmodern condition. It cannot be done. So if you look at this particular tendency of what we call the totalizing narratives, Christopher Butler, a person who was a critic of Jean Francois Lyotard, says the general sociological claim in I think this book is Postmodernism. Christopher Butler. It was written in 2001. Christopher Butler says that the general sociological claim that what we call these enlightened narratives are on a decline, because when postmodern condition has come into existence, it began questioning every narrative that wants to enlighten the people, and writers were afraid of writing enlightening narratives, according to Jean Francois Lyotard, and no one can enlighten the society. So when this strain prevails in the society, even with the prevalence and with the permission of this kind of tendency in the society, we can see that these enlightened or totalizing narratives are still prevailing. And these still prevail even with the collapse of the state-sponsored Marxism in the West. Even Marxism collapsed, and Marxism is also a profound believer. Marxism also was ranked as a totalizing narrative, an enlightened narrative by Jean Francois Lyotard. And no narrative is an enlightening narrative, and every narrative wants to enlighten the society. So that's why in the postmodern strains or in the postmodern notions, no narrative can really fit into the postmodern theoretical discourse, what I can say. So that is the reason why every work that is produced in the contemporary Indian English scenario can be studied from the point of view of fragmentation and from the point of view of multifariousness and from the point of view of what we call the multiple symbols that are existing in the society. So from this premise, I would like to just touch upon the various postmodern strains and how the Indian contemporary Indian English literature projected these or presented these postmodern tendencies from the point of view of coexistence of contraries and at the same time religion. And then the third important thing is the myth and legend, history, language, freedom from tradition, and at the same time politics, very important strain in postmodernism. And finally, I would like to conclude. So these are the various points I would like to touch upon. So the first one I would like to look at is the contradiction, the coexistence of contradicting tendencies. And given this background, the Indian condition, the Indian situation presents a very apt background, a very what we can say an idealistic background for the presentation of the coexistence of contraries. And if you just look at Larry Scott says, as I mentioned to you previously, Larry Scott in his Sociology of Postmodernism says that the postmodern society, if you want to contain the postmodern tendencies, it overspills. So you cannot contain them. And the similar strain can be seen in many of the works, like right from R.K. Narayan to Vikram Seth, the most modern writer, with one of the voluminous works to his name that is called Suitable Boy, A Suitable Boy. So all these coexistence of contraries can be seen in the works of R.K. Narayan to Vikram Seth. And at the same time, we want to take a broader premise in order to study the postmodern condition in the contemporary Indian English scenario. And the contemporary Indian English scenario can be aptly defined from the point of view of the coexistence of conflicting tendencies that are prevalent in the society. Now, as I mentioned to you earlier, that India presents not only a hedonistic point of view because of the rise of the consumer culture, but it also, there was an essential strain that we can see that is called the opposite tendency of religious essentialism. Religion is a very important point of study for postmoderns. And religion was also a very challenging feature. Religion was challenging to the modernist thought, especially to the because I think you know modernism is different, postmodernism is different. So to the modernist philosophy, this religion was a challenge because it did not religion did not conform to reasoned approach. So rationality, it cannot be fit into rationality. That's why I told you in the beginning that science and rationality, which happened in a dialogue that happened between the people who supported religion and people who supported science and rationality. So people went to the extent of saying that science and rationality has taken the wind out of religion and art will be a substitute, but it did not happen. So religion did not conform to the reasoned approach, and at the same time, it dabbled in a particular realm called, a particular region called mysticism. And this mysticism is a very prominent factor which cannot be fit into any theory. And this mysticism today is providing a very good discourse to postmodernism. Because the Western society today is engaged in a search for a new definition of religion. Because I think we have in Sanskrit, we have the term called matamo. So it is nothing but it is fastening two ends together. We have the definition in Indian scenario, in Indian Brahmanical scriptures. We have the definition of what religion really means. But the Western society is still at large in finding a new definition. It is engaged in finding a new definition to this religion. And now the Indian concept of dharma is going to give a very apt definition to this postmodern alternative, a postmodern alternative definition to religion. The term is called dharma. Dharma is very volatile. It is very fragmented. At the same time, it is very fluid in nature. Not only it has a definite core, but at the same time, it changes according to time, place, and person. That's the beauty of this dharma. And you can see many of the works based on this dharma in Raja Rao and Arun Joshi, and even the new entrant called Karan Bajaj, you can see. So I'm going to provide you some insights how you can study the works and how you can apply postmodernism. So if you just look at the tendencies of religion, what we call the Indian society that is going to provide a particular definition, a modern definition to religion through the term called dharma. Dharma provides an apt answer, and it also provides a postmodern alternative or a reflection of two things. One is fluidity and the next is diversity. So two things can be understood from dharma. One is called fluidity. It is not static. And the next is diversity. These are the two trends that we can see in postmodernism. And if you just apply the same, we can also see that dharma is more focused on one's duty rather than anything else. It is focused on one's performance of duty rather than anything else, and it also it appears like a social discipliner. It is a social code of conduct. And if you see the inscriptions of Ashoka's edicts, and in the edicts of in the inscriptions of Ashoka, we have a social discipline that has to be followed in Mauryan society. So this is this appears just like a social discipliner, and it is focused on one's duty towards religion. And at the same time, I would like to just tell you that this can be seen from the point of view of from the angles of fluidity and diversity, because in India we have several people believing in several gods who are called Sanatanists. People who believe in one god, Vedantists. People do not believe in any god, Buddhists and Jainas. So all these people living together in a welter, if you put them together, it is an Indian society. So people who believe in one god, who are called Vedantists, people who believe in several gods, Sanatanists, and the people who don't believe in any god, these are called Buddhists and Jains. So living together in the society. And at the same time, this concept of dharma changes according to time, place, and person. But it has a core which is unchangeable. That core is called righteousness. So this is called the postmodern concept, a core that controls from the center, but it has several strains and tracks. So now the Indian concept of dharma can provide an exact solution to the Western society's search for religion. That's why I'm just referring to dharma as a concept that can really provide a true definition, a true alternative with its fluidity and diversity. So coming to how we can apply it to the postmodern condition. So postmodernism in religion, we can say, should ideally include an experience, an exercise to find new possibilities, and an exercise of and an experiencing of the impossible. How it can be done? This can be done through what we call mysticism. So the mysticism that was propounded by Rabindranath Tagore and Nissim Ezekiel, and also Aurobindo Ghosh. All this is called the new brand of religion that the Indian writers have brought to the fore. And this mysticism can provide an answer to the postmodern strains of exercising or an exercise in finding new possibilities and an experience of the impossible. Because the modernist philosophy of religion could not find an answer to religion because it is restricted by the limits of human knowledge. So modernism cannot provide an answer, but postmodernism can provide an answer to religion. Because modernism was limited by the restrictions of human knowledge. But what postmodernism did was, postmodernism kept it outside language, outside the possible, in a realm called mysticism. And it provides an answer because it is similar to what we call grace or gift. The term called religion, or what we call the dharma, which is a kind of social discipline, is very much similar to the tendency called the traditional concept called grace or gift, which we call daya. So in this way, even this grace or gift, the terms called grace and gift, you can see in Rabindranath Tagore. In Gitanjali, every poem has this term called grace and gift. And Arun Joshi, another novelist who is the modern writer, who is the contemporary Indian writer, you can see the gift of God as life becomes a gift of God in the hands of Arun Joshi. And Rajarao presents mysticism throughout his works. And within and without, you can see. And we have other writers like people who are called like Chetan Bhagat and people who are called the modern contemporary writers. They write popular literature. They don't talk about religion. They don't talk about mysticism. So if you just look at the contemporary Indian scenario, the contemporary Indian scenario totally differs. Even in the contemporary Indian scenario, we have two strains. One strain totally based on mysticism and another strain totally based on existentialism, or what we call the phenomenological conditions of the present. So if you just look at these two strains provide a basic coherence in a society where the strains of mysticism and the strains of liberty both exist together. This is nothing but postmodernism. Postmodernism is nothing but presenting the coexistence of contraries. And this is where, if you can apply the term called postmodern strain. So both to Rajarao you have to apply, and even to Chetan Bhagat you can apply. Chetan Bhagat, who is the popular writer, a writer of popular literature, and another person like Bharti Mukherjee and Arvind Adiga, who is also a serious writer, if you can see. Even in these people, you can see the postmodern strains coming forward, and they look out to be studied. So from this point, I would like to move on to another important thing that is called mass media. Jean Baudrillard is another postmodern thinker who focused on the ubiquity of the mass media, the omnipresence of the mass media. And the omnipresence and the ubiquity of the mass media is one of the important strains of a postmodern society. It is a potential marker of a postmodern society. Why? What is the reason? Because I mentioned to you that in religion also, Indian society presents myriad variety with one section of people following, one section of literature following mysticism, another section following liberty and neutrality. So all this put together becomes the contemporary Indian scenario of presenting the facts and circumstances on religion. And when we move on to the mass media, the important strain in mass media is that the search for truth has been totally abandoned. Truth is not there. Truth is not at all prevalent. And why this happened so? The search for truth has totally been abandoned because what we have today are the interreferential representations or copies of each other. We don't have an original. We don't have a stable thing. We don't have a real picture. We don't have an objective source of meaning and communication. When there is no objective source of meaning and communication, when there is no stable picture, when there is no reality, and when there is no stability in thought, I think search for truth is very much a futile thing. It is a wild goose chase. It becomes a wild goose chase. And if you just look at the search for truth, how the search for truth has been abandoned, and the interreferential representations, because of the prevalence of interreferential representations and the copies of each other prevailing in the society, in the same society, with copies of each other, with no real stable or original picture, and at the same time, no objective source of communication and meaning. In this scenario, I would like to point out Frederick Jameson, another American Marxist scholar. Frederick Jameson says that the objective world today has undergone a fundamental mutation. Why this happened so? Because the objective world today has transformed into, has undergone a fundamental mutation, so that even postmodernism presents a set of texts, and which we call simulacra. Simulacra means similar text. It is just the copy of something else, which is copy of or inter-referential representation. It is not the original, it is not the stable, it is not the true picture. So what Frederick Jameson says, we have several texts which are nothing but the copies of each other. So when we accept this particular term called simulacra is a term that points to the victory of the virtual over the real. What we are doing today is nothing but a kind of simulacra. I am meeting you virtually, and this virtual reality is nothing but a simulacra. A copy of mine is being presented to you on a virtual platform. This is called the simulacra. So it is a victory of the virtual over the real. And if we just go further into the details of how this mass media has become a major strain in postmodern scenario, Indians' fascination for cinema and television has surpassed that of the fascination of any society in the world, because we are after television, we are after cinema. And even if you just look at the popular literature that was produced by Chetan Bhagat or Vikas Swarup or Amish Tiwari, all these people. So if you just look at these people, the writings of these people, we see that the popular literature has followed a formula film pattern. So this formula film pattern, just like a hero's father was killed by the villain, and the hero grows up and villain is killed. This is called the formula film pattern. So the popular literature today that was written by these popular writers like Chetan Bhagat and Vikas Swarup, these people also write popular literature with a strain of what we call the formula film pattern. And this formula film pattern, these novels, these popular literature can be easily converted into feature films because it is based on a particular pattern, a particular structure, like Gerard Janet said, that every work can be structured into a particular formula. So even the works, the popular literature that was produced by Chetan Bhagat, Vikas Swarup, and I think we have works from Amish Tiwari. All these people present these works with a similar strain. And now I move on to another important tendency in postmodern scenario, that is called history. History is a very important field of interface between post-colonialism and postmodernism. It is a concurrent phenomena. The concurrent phenomena of post-colonial that interfaces with the postmodernism mostly in the field of history. So both these two come together, both these two encounter each other in the field called history. While the post-colonial approach to history is to revise the history which was corrupted by the colonizers, because colonizers have written their own history. If you just look at even the text, Indian historical texts that were written by William Jones and the text that was written by R.C. Majumdar. So there was a lot of difference between how William Jones presented ancient Indian past, and the same has been rewritten by R.C. Majumdar. Because R.C. Majumdar presents from the Indian point of view that the Harappan civilization is the outstanding civilization that existed before Aryan period, before Aryans came to India or invaded India, according to him. So, but when you read William Jones' history, William Jones' history presents a particular point of view right from Aryan invasion, because they themselves believe that Aryans were a cultured lot and they brought civilization and culture to the Oriental world. So this is the strain that happens in a postmodern condition, where the post-colonial and the postmodern interface each other in the field of history. While the post-colonial look at history, or post-colonial approach to history is to revise the history which was corrupted by the colonizers, postmodernism goes a long way. It goes a long way to give voice to the suppressed. And who are these suppressed? As understood in the terms of, as understood in the Western discourse, called women and homosexuals, or what we call LGBT community. So if you just look at this particular contradiction, while post-colonial want to revise history, postmodernism goes a long way to give voice to the suppressed. who are understood in postmodern terms or in Western discourse as women and also homosexuals or LGBT community. And if we just go forward from here, we see that Hayden White is a very prominent scholar, and Hayden White says in his work called, I think it is Postmodernism and Historiography. Postmodernism and Historiography, he says that postmodernism, rather instead of searching for historical truth in the current scenario, postmodernism goes to the extent of reading even prehistory. So because I told you in the beginning itself that postmodernism doesn't know boundaries. Postmodernism doesn't have any boundaries, and it knew no boundaries. So it exceeds into prehistory and goes even to study the prehistory also. So the crossing of the boundaries of the postmodernism gives it a vast and expansive outlook, rather than what we call the post-colonial theory. While the post-colonial theory is restricted, postmodernism does not know any restrictions. So in the same way, Frederick Jameson in Cultural Logic of Capitalism, if you just look at this work, Cultural Logic of Capitalism, Frederick Jameson says that we are heading towards a break with history because we are so much obsessed with the present nowadays that we are consuming and commodifying history in the name of pastiche. So if you just look at this term pastiche is a very prominent term in the postmodern theory. And if we are commodifying it, we are selling it in a different form. History is sold in different terms, and at the same time we are not only commodifying it, but we are consuming it in the form of pastiche. So where we can see these tendencies, some of the novels which represent this pastiche tendencies are by Salman Rushdie is one, through magic realism, the strategy called magic realism. And we can see Shashi Tharoor is another, and we have Indu Sundareshan, and we have Basraj Nayaka. So all these people, Basraj Nayaka and Indu Sundareshan, they go even forward into open-ending scenario. Postmodern works, they never provide any climax or a catastrophe. So they provide an open ending, and that open ending is nothing but a postmodern strain. A postmodern, it provides a particular background, a discourse of postmodern study to a particular work. So even if you see Shashi Tharoor, and even we have Salman Rushdie, Amitav Ghosh is another who prominently writes with this kind of open-ending scenario, open-ending strategy. So now another important trend that comes into picture after history, yes, obviously it is myth and legend. So myth, I referred to in the beginning itself that myth and legend, these two prominently form a very important strain in every work, and every work is nothing but a myth told in the present tense. And every writer writes his own story, and it is don't think that it is a grand narrative. Grand narratives are also story about a story, according to Jim Franco's Lighthearted. And that's why there are every narrative is a totalizing narrative, according to him, and every narrative is an enlightened. It aims at enlightenment, or it is an enlightened narrative. So enlightened narrative is nothing but aiming to change the society, or aiming to achieve something in the society with a particular end. That is the prominence of these totalizing narratives. So when we look at these. When we look at history presented by Amitav Ghosh or Shashi Tharoor or Indu Sundareshan or Basaraj Nayakar, now it becomes incumbent on us to look at how myth and legend is studied. Myth and legend, both these two are studied by postmodern theory. So postmodernism, myth and legend, according to postmodernism, is a cultural bulwark of the people. Myth and legend, both these two are the cultural bulwark of the people living in a particular society. And on this front, the colonizers really faulted. They faulted the people based on enlightened rationality. So what they thought was, whatever the myth and legend that is prevailing in the colony, in the occupied territory by the colonizer. So they thought that these two, the myths and legends that were propagated in the colonized society, in the occupying territory, they thought that these are totally futile, and these are uncivilized in nature, and these are uncultured, which has to be transformed into culture, into their own culture. So they faulted these myths and legends on the premise of what we call this enlightened rationality. I think now I would like to refer to Franz Fanon with The Wretched of the Earth. Franz Fanon in Wretched of the Earth, who is also an apostle of post-colonialism, said that the colonialism is not merely satisfied by gripping the people and applying the logic. So it holds the people in its grip, and it applies the logic, the colonial tendency, but it is not satisfied with it. Even we can see the same strain in Homi J. Bhabha. So the colonial tendencies are not merely satisfied with holding the people in its grip and applying the logic. What they say, what they do, they turn the past of the oppressed, and they try to disfigure it, destroy it, and demolish it. That's what he says in page number 189. And if at all the same is done, there was a revisitation or writing back to the society, writing back to this kind of this particular trend of revising the past. That was done by Ashok Banka. He's one Indian writer. You can apply postmodern tendencies of myths and legends. You can study myths and legends in Ashok Banker, Amish Tripathi, Chitra Banerjee Divakuruni is another, and Chitra Banerjee, who is prominently called Chitra Banerjee, and I would like to call the full name Chitra Banerjee Divakuruni, and Anand Neelakantan, the most prominent upcoming writer, very modern writer. And in all these people, we see that myths and legends are revisited. These myths and legends are revisited not with the critical eye of the colonizer, but with a post-structuralist approach. This post-structuralist approach places myth in a no man's land, in an ambiguous territory. And that's why if you say the Shiva trilogy of Amish Tripathi, it happens in a geographical space no one knows. And that's what we can apply. Even you can see in J.M. Coetzee's Waiting for the Barbarians, and you can see in John Burgess G. So all these works, if you apply the postmodern literary writings, even to the writings of popular literature, and Amish Tiwari is also a very popular writer. He's a writer of popular literature. And you can even read popular literature with the postmodern strain. And don't get disheartened that you cannot read popular literature. You cannot really do some prominent work on popular literature and cannot produce any good theoretical work. You can, but with sheer logic and with very good theoretical discourse. And if you just look at, there was also revisitation of some legends that were written. If you just look at Ashok Banker has gone into the study of Ramayana also. And Rama was related to Kochilacus. Kochilacus is a North Indian chieftain. And the same story that we read Rama here as the demigod, or what was propounded by Maricha, Raman Vigrahavan Dharmaha. The same thing was told by another character in what we call Beowulf. Beowulf is the old epic that was written in Anglo-Saxon language. And in Beowulf, we see that the reference to Hygelac. Hygelac is a king and whose ancestor was Kochilacus. Kochilacus was the ancestor of Hygelac, who was a what we call Norwegian chieftain. He belongs to Norway, and the Norwegian chieftain speaks about Kochilacus. And Kochilacus' life history and Rama's history are very near. And the same strain is also followed in Beowulf by Hygelac and also the hero called Beowulf. So converting the hero into a god, is at work. That was what the mechanism that was doing doing it. That was what was done at the background of converting a hero into a demigod. So the same strain you can see in other works that were written by the Westerners, not just in the Indian writers like Amish Tripathi or Ashok Bankar or Chitra Banerjee or Anand Neelakantan. So now I would like to refer to language, very prominent factor, language. And language is always a very big question in postmodernism. And postmodernism, I would like to put it in one single term. Postmodernism always interrogates language. It interrogates language and language's capacity as a representational and its representational potency of language. It interrogates the representational potency of language. And that's why if you see some of the works like Toni Morrison, or I think you can get it in Margaret Atwood, the Canadian writer, Surfacing. Surfacing is an excellent example of how postmodernism can really look at how postmodernism interrogates the representational potential of language. Whatever I speak and whatever you speak, language lacks a representational potential according to post-structuralists and also to postmodernists. And it was also supported by deconstruction theory by Derrida, and also many other theorists who wanted that the theoretical discourse, they supported this representational potential. They questioned the representational potency of language through various theoretical discourses. But the fact is, in fact, we have to accept that today the text has lost its credibility and credibility. And because what postmodernism treats a text is, text has no credibility. So go beyond the text, and whatever the text text presents is only a kind of a hollowness. HOLLOWNESS. Text is always about hollowness, and we have to go into this hollowness in order to study, and we have to come out with what we call. I think here we can apply even the yogic principle of how the serpent eats its own tail. Because in the postmodern text, there is nothing but hollowness. The text eats itself, just like a serpent eats its tail. And as the serpent gobbles its tail, the serpent becomes a giraffe. So just like the text eats itself, just like a serpent eats its own tail, the text is totally filled with hollowness according to postmodernists. So that's why the representational potential of language is always at question. And we can see in several of the Indian texts, they present the postmodernist scenario and the postmodernism, the tendencies of postmodernism very prominently. We can see in the Indian texts. And I would like to mention the texts of Salman Rushdie. Style-wise, if you just look at style-wise, we have fluidity and diversity. We have mixed narrative and the strategies like what we call magic realism. We have self-reflexivity, which we call self-reflexivity or metafiction, which we call an open-ending scenario. So all these are very much present in the Indian writers, in the contemporary Indian writers, like Salman Rushdie is one, Shashi Tharoor, and Irving Allen Seeley is another. And all these people present the postmodern tendencies very prominently. So now, can I take another 10 minutes, sir, with your permission? Or can I conclude?
Please, Narasimha.
Yeah, thank you, sir. So another prominent feature of postmodernism, if we want to look at, it is about what we call freedom from tradition. Freedom from tradition is a very prominent feature in the postmodernism, and we can see most of the works that were written by Shashi Deshpande, they go outside the wedlock. The women characters that were represented by Shashi Deshpande, they transgress the system of wedlock, and they go beyond the wedlock system. So if you just see this presence, because postmodernism always prevails in a democratic society, and the position of women is a prominent question. That was the position of women, and at the same time the suppressed voices of LGBT community, which we call LAG. I think you know lesbian, gay, transsexual, and bisexual communities. So these communities are also given voice. That's why I told you in the beginning itself when I gave my opinion on history. So it goes to the extent, postmodernism goes to the extent of giving voice to the suppressed voices who were understood in the Western discourse as women and what we call homosexuals. So if you apply the same logic here, freedom from tradition is a very prominent feature that we can see in the modern in the contemporary Indian English fiction, and even I think we can apply the same to some extent to the autobiographies also, especially for testimonials. Though testimonials totally depend on realism and what we call the super realism sometimes, but testimonials apart, you can even apply to life writings. So that is a very prominent feature that we can understand that is the freedom from tradition that we can understand in the postmodernism. And Shashi Deshpande is one, and another we have even the works that were written by Jhampa Lahiri. To some extent, we see that the women defy the wedlock, the marriage system, and they go beyond. Even Chitra Banerjee also, they go beyond the system of marriage, the institution, the social institution called marriage. And another prominent tendency in postmodernism is politics. And politics, I think we cannot define this one, but one prominent feature that we can say is there are several political writers in the contemporary Indian English scenario, starting from Khushwant Singh to Nayanthara Sehgal, Manohar Malgonkar, and Salman Rushdie is another, and Amitav Ghosh, who transformed the nation into hollowness. So if you just apply the same, one particular thing happened in the postmodern condition, that is postmodernism, just like Marxism always thought that postmodernism, unlike Marxism, said that nation will prevail. But Marxism said that state withers away. State never withers away. And that's why Marxism was a big failure, especially in the contemporary scenario. I don't want to apply it like a universal truth. But in the contemporary scenario, it was a failure because its basic principle is that state withers away gradually, but state never withers away because of the existence of terrorism, or with the new strains in terrorism. Every nation became very strong, and the boundaries have become totally strengthened. So in the strengthened boundaries of the nation, we can see several fractures. We can see several disseminations and multifariousness that is prevailing prominently, and that was a very ideal ground for postmodernism to prevail. And the same strain we can see in works of Nayanthara Sehgal, and we can see in Shashi Tharoor, and Manohar Malgonkar is another, Salman Rushdie and Amitav Ghosh. So I would like to conclude my session today that in the words of Zygmunt Bauman. So Zygmunt Bauman, the famous postmodern scholar, said that the main feature that can be ascribed to postmodernism is pluralism, the permanent and irreducible prevalence of pluralism, and the acceptance of pluralistic tendencies, language games, and at the same time, the communal traditions. All these prevailed together, and that was the main feature that can be ascribed to postmodernism. And postmodernists, they never complain about the chaos that is happening in the society. They really celebrate the multifariousness. They really celebrate the chaotic conditions that are prevailing in society, and they never feel nervous about what we call the chaotic and the chaotic condition, or the confusing contradictions that are happening in society. It is really a celebrating factor for them, and that's why Jean Baudrillard says, very, very comically, he says that the world is totally unintelligible, and we should resist attempts to make it intelligible. So we should not make any attempt to make this world intelligible, because being unintelligible itself is a kind of bliss to this world, and we should make this world to remain this unintelligibility. And this is what postmodernism strikes at in order to make this world intelligible. So thank you very much, sir, for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Narasimha Rao. It was a very exhaustive address. In fact, you have covered all the areas related to postmodernism and Indian writing in English. And of course, you have given a long, an elaborate survey of from modernism to postmodernism and postcolonialism, and even to post-colonialism also. I'm really very happy. Can you take a couple of questions? I mean, maybe some of these research scholars may be interested to raise a couple of questions. So the platform is now open for a couple of questions. So only a few questions, please. Okay, because the other speaker is also waiting, and we have to move on. Anyone can raise their hand and raise your questions, please.
రాఘవ ఎవరైనా హ్యాండ్ రేస్ చేస్తున్నారా చూడమ్మా.
లేదు మ్యామ్, అందరికీ అవకాశం ఇచ్చాను.
ఇచ్చావా? ఓకే, రైట్. సార్ మీరు చూస్తున్నారా?
Yeah.
Nagendra Sharma is there and Ramana Gupta.
Yeah, please, Nagendra, go ahead.
Sir, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Professor K. Narasimha Rao, sir, good morning. The speech is wonderful, sir. It is really inspiring. So there is one question I wanted to ask, sir. So in postmodern tendency, what you have said is the most important theme or concept is coexistence of contradicting tendencies, right? But since the past decade or something, we have seen the utmost level of polarization. So all over the world, in many nations, we are seeing that politically also this is very visible and viable. Like right parties or left-wing parties are being winning because there's a lot of polarization in the world, and we see that people are not able to accompany each other's ideas or come into terms with each other's ideas, and there are being rallies in America, and we are also seeing some kind of communal violences in India also. So coexistence of contradicting tendencies, how do you think it is going in contemporary world, sir?
So I think your question has the answer. Your question has the answer, and you answered yourself, because I told you that postmodernism celebrates, it is an acceptance rather than celebrates the coexistence of contraries. So if you accept, I think there will be no contradictions in the world. Because postmodernism, that's why I told you at the last I said, let the world be unintelligible. And the postmodernism, what Jean Baudrillard said, that the world is unintelligible and we should resist attempts to make it intelligible. So if at all you are intelligible, so the world will know how to accept and how to tolerate the rival tendencies. So one thing is, postmodernism prevails only with these contradictions, and one of the important themes of one of the important points of postmodernism is the coexistence of contraries or the conflicting tendencies. So I think through postmodernism, you can really accept whatever the contraries that are happening in the society, whatever the oppositions or what we call the aggrieved parties that are there. If you accept them, I think there will be no problem. But if you want to resist it, then arises the problem. And you are talking about that even the right-wing nationalists are coming up. And when you say right-wing nationalists, we have also leftists. So leftists and rightists prevail in the same society. And one thing is, postmodernism accepts both. And that's why I told you it is called the coexistence of contraries. So postmodernism is a theory which can be applied to all. And postmodernism, that's why I told you that postmodernism knew no bounds. It has no bounds. If you want to contain it, it overspills. That's what I told you. And you can also refer to Larry Scott. So Larry Scott, in his Sociology of Postmodern, said, if you want to contain postmodernism, it overspills. It cannot be controlled. So that's why I think your question itself has the answer. And I think you are answered. I hope so.
Okay, can we move on to one more question from Prasad? Yes, Prasad. Please respond. You raised the hand.
Sir, he's responding.
Okay.
Prasad, you are not audible.
Yay.
Can you unmute yourself, Prasad? Yeah, Prasad, go ahead.
Prasad is not audible.
Prasad, you just hold on. We will move to the next, some query. That is Ramana Gupta. No, Prasad, it's not audible. Just hold on. Meanwhile, you just check your audio system. Ramana Gupta. Yeah, please.
It's a wonderful lecture. Just to demystify the postmodernism. I have one question. That is, you commented that no one can enlighten the society. Does this apply to all situations, or the situation where there is hidden agenda?
So this enlightenment is a big question right from the humanists. I think if you read the critical theory starts with liberal humanism. Liberal humanism right from Matthew Arnold and to new critics. And then it went into different, in different structures, in structuralism also. Structuralism, it totally delinked itself with the society and went into the text, not beyond the text. So if you just look at liberal humanist tendency of enlightening the world, enlightenment is a concept that was taken up for destructive purposes by the Western world. And that's why even Rudyard Kipling said, it is a white man's burden to civilize the world. Why should there be any burden on any section of the society or any part of the world? So that's why if you just look at African literature totally brushes away the thought of enlightenment. Because whatever you have, whatever the kind of civilization you have, it is nothing but it is a product of enlightenment. Whatever the culture you are living in, and whatever the culture that is propagated in the society, in your world, whatever the world that you propose, that world itself is a product of enlightenment. And that's why it is not necessary that someone comes from outside and enlighten you. Enlightenment is within you. That's what even Buddha said. That's why even postmodernism says that enlightenment is not at all necessary. And these are called the enlightened rationality, which is applied by the Western world, is totally unnecessary.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Prasad, can you just are you able to?
He is unmuted, sir, but somehow we are not able to hear him.
Prasad.
So Prasad garu, please click on the mic symbol, sir. So there is a find Wi-Fi cellular option. It's muted, sir. It's muted.
Now it's okay, no?
I think some technical problems, sir.
Okay, then we will. Prasad, you can do one thing. You can post your question in the chat box. Maybe Mr. Rao can respond on that. Okay. So let us move on to the next speaker, because I think we are running out of time. It's already almost 12. Just 7 more minutes to 12. So, Madam.
Sir. Sir, first of all, I thank Professor Narasimha Rao, sir, for accepting our invitation to speak in a very short notice. Sir, though you didn't present any PPT, you were spontaneous, and it was very good lecture, sir, focusing on many aspects of postmodernism. This is really useful to our scholars who have joined recently in the department, sir. We are having a handful of scholars in the department now. Nearly 30 scholars are there. Many of them are aiming to do research in Indian English literature. So it's a good lecture, sir. And we have all the appreciation for you for delivering a good lecture and making our days. Thank you very much once again. With these few words of thanks, I now move on to the other speaker. Before the other speaker gives the lecture, I invite G. Chandrika, Research Scholar of the department, to introduce Professor Rajendra Prasad ji. Chandrika, over to Chandrika.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Yeah.
A very good
Please.
morning to the speakers, other dignitaries, research scholars, and students. It is a great honor for me to introduce today's speaker, Professor CHA Rajendra Prasad, a renowned academician and researcher who has more than 30 years of experience in teaching. Professor Rajendra Prasad, whom we are going to listen shortly, is currently serving as head, Department of English and Communications, and coordinator Foreign Desk at Dravidian University, Kuppam. He did his post-graduation in Andhra University. He was awarded PhD in English from Andhra University in 1990. His recent academic accomplishments are, he had been invited as a foreign thesis examiner to Addis Ababa University, Ethiopia, first time in 2008. Professor Rajendra Prasad had been invited second time to the same university, Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, in the year 2012. Sir also functioned as a foreign reviewer and reviewed articles to be published in Organization of Social Science Research in East Africa. Also awarded a major UGC research project entitled Teaching English Language Through Literatures in English, Designing Course Developing Material. And also his thesis was adjudicated as best thesis and awarded Sir R. Venkataratnam Research Medal by Andhra University in the year 1992. Professor also contributing his services by being a member in various academic bodies, like member Academic Senate in Adikavi Nannaya University from 2018 to till date, member BOS English SV University 2018 to 2021, and member BOS RGUKT Nujividu from 2017 to till date. Professor Rajendra Prasad served in many universities. First, he worked in Sri Vayan College, Narsapur, then in University of Asmara, Eritrea, Northeast Africa. And he also served for the Addis Ababa University, Ethiopia, East Africa for more than 4 years. And a year in Garunis University's Benghazi, Libya. Currently, he is teaching as professor and serving as head in the Department of English and Communications, Dravidian University. Professor also guided 3 scholars in Addis Ababa University. Sir is the PhD supervisor for Andhra University, Acharya Nagarjuna University, and Dravidian University. Professor Rajendra Prasad was the managing editor for the journal Ezol, Ethiopian Journal of Language and Literature from 2002 to 2006. Professor also served as the registrar, Dravidian University from 2013 to 2015, and he was the director, School of Distance and Continuing Education from 2012 to 13. He also was the Dean, School of Comparative Dravidian Literature and Translational Studies from 2009 to 12. Professor also contributed his services as Nodal Officer of AP Higher Education and British Council Communication Skills Program in Dravidian University during the period 2016 to 18. And Professor Rajendra Prasad published 3 books, The Function of Enema in Arun Joshi, A Critical Study, Research Methodology, Cosmos in Logos, a translation of Telugu science poetry into English. And there is another book in progress, Teaching Language Through Literature, Possibilities Beyond Dichotomies. And he has published many literary and non-literary articles in various reputed journals. Under literatures in English area, he published articles like Literature Beyond Aesthetics, The Saga of the Commitment for Inclusive Society in Indian English Literature, Bridging Pre-Modernity, Modernity and Beyond, Madhurantakam Narendra in the short story anthology, Rendella Padnalgu, and so on. He also translated works from Telugu to English, Aksharamulu Antariksham by Kottapalli Satya Srimanarayana's science poetry, and he also translated 9 short stories of select Uttarandhra Telugu short story. As part of innovative project are few among his translations. Professor Rajendra Prasad has organized many conferences. He also attended many seminars and presented papers. He has visited many universities and delivered invited talks at several places. Today, he'll be delivering lecture on writing as skill, implications and prospects in higher education. So in this regard, I just want to mention a quote here. The most dangerous person is the one who listens, thinks and observes. So let's listen to the lecture, think and observe. Simply, let's be dangerous today. So a hearty welcome, sir. We are eager to listen to you and please begin the session. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible.
Good morning to all of you.
Morning,
At the outset, before I venture into my topic, already I'm threatened. So I really hesitate now to say anything. However, let me begin in the proper way. At the outset, I would like to thank the Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Mokka Jagannath Rao, and the Registrar of the University, Professor Ashok, and the Principal of Arts College of Adikavi Nannaya University, Professor Teki, my erstwhile colleague and dear friend, Professor K.S. Ramesh, BY Chairperson, and Dr. Jyotirmai, who is organizing this program, and my fellow presenter, Professor K. Narasimha Rao, and dear participants. Good morning to all of you. It is almost noon. Maybe I should bring you down from cloud 9 to the mundane, cloud 9 of postmodernism to the mundane, the obvious, something that is very fundamental. As your Vice Chancellor has rightly pointed out, maybe I should be dealing with the obvious problem, not something very high and fine issues like postmodernism. In fact, he was right when he said most of our students have this obvious difficulty in communicating because of obvious reasons. The reasons are mostly social, political, cultural. This is there, and academic reasons are also there. So, from the keeping this as background, let me go ahead and say something sensible. Rather, share with you my feelings as a teacher who has been in this business of teaching for about 30 years. And now, actually, when a proposal came to me, to talk on an ELT topic, and I chose writing skill. But I know discussing writing skill is discussing something that is very ancient, something that is a sort of much worked out. Whether there is anything new to say for me, because LSRW skills are something that have been there all the while. So, what is there new to say to you, to share with you, or rather, maybe more importantly, as it was pointed out right at the beginning, to motivate you. Okay, now let me come to certain important issues. Why are we talking about the obvious? Why are we talking about that is already there very much before us? The reason is, most of the time, we are talkative, but not writative. I'm taking liberty and using a word writative, W-R-I-T-A-T-I-V-E. Most of our students are not encouraged to write. That's one thing. And further, how these writing skills are connected to higher education, I would like to broach that matter also. So let me clarify. My presentation, in a very brief way, will be dealing with writing skill and its connection with higher education and its contributory role in higher education. So that is what I'm going to do right now. So as I already said, most of the time our students have remained incommunicado. They are not actually able to speak whatever they want to speak in from an academic forum. And secondly, when it comes to writing, I think the matter is doubly worse. Who is to be blamed here? Who should take the responsibility? That also I would like to get into here right now. Okay, before I say anything, my hunch is we need to go deep into the issue, and let us see the roots of the malady. What are the roots of this malady? Malady of poor communication, either speaking or writing, and of course, anyway, my focus is going to be on writing. What are the roots? Okay, and when I say the roots, I would like to say our ancient education system is mostly based on two aspects. One is Shruti and another one is Smruti. Shruti and Smruti. Shruti is listening and Smruti is remembering, not abhinaya, not actual performance. So most of the time, the learners at any stage are expected to listen and expected to remember, but not to actually say something on their own. Of course, the student friend or research scholar friend who introduced me said that we will observe, and that was really a very good thing. Actually, that is what is needed. Beyond observation, of course, one should go. That is also important. Now, so my hunch is, unless we come out of this the tradition of Shruti and Smruti, which are definitely antagonistic to the spirit of higher education, we will not progress much, to say the least. In spite of our students being in master's program and beyond master's program, sometimes in research program, the handicap is very much there. So that is what I would like to deal with. I don't want to just to tell you how to write, because it is obvious. I told you, even my topic is definitely something that is not enviable topic. Nobody can envy that I'm given this topic because it is unenviable. So as I told you, because of this Shruti and Smruti traditions, students are not expected to think on their own, write on their own. So that is what is happening most of the time. And here I say we may raise one issue. What is the problem if students continue to be listeners, continue to be practicing remembering, continue to be remembering only? But the problem is higher education, especially at the master's level, even starting from undergraduation level, it demands individual performance. Higher education definitely demands creativity. Of course, it is exploration of knowledge with adding creativity on the part of the pursuer. And coming up with their experience, their engagement with a given topic, with a given subject, that engagement, a sort of sustained engagement and reflection of that engagement, either in the form of writing or oral presentation, these are very much basis of higher education. But what are we doing? Since the emphasis is not on writing skill all the while, most of the time, it is the teacher, or let us say lecturer or professor, that is doing the talking in the class. So because of this constant let us say what we call teacher centeredness, as everybody knows, and that is very much practiced, our students are kept in a muted position. My feeling, I am sure you all agree with me, this goes very much against the basic grain of higher education. Because higher education at master's level, whatever be the discipline, whether it is arts or social sciences or let us say sciences or any other subject, it demands individual students' involvement involvement in a thoughtful manner, involvement in an active manner, involvement in a dynamic manner. That is what is needed. It is not actually, it is not actually remembering a few facts and reproducing them as they are. That is not the spirit of current higher education system, which we adopted from the West. So unless we change this attitude, unless we come out of the grip of Shruti and Smruti traditions, which are still holding us very much. They have kept our students and everybody perhaps in a muted position. Whereas higher education demands an imaginative, creative involvement and individual pursuit. So that is what I would like to share with you. So in this context, writing plays a very important role, because students' involvement with a particular topic, particular subject, particular discipline must be resulted in writing, in expressing their opinions in a detailed way. But where is the scope for that? And I tell you a small thing. I would like to touch that aspect perhaps in a more detailed way later on. Most of the time we are assigning assignments to students, term papers to students, but are they evaluated and returned with comments? This is a real issue. So what are we doing? We are actually ignoring the importance of writing. Okay, right. Now, okay, before we go further, so this is what I'm going to take up. I'm not just going to discuss the very basic of writing as a process. Yes, that is very fundamental, but good to remember. I will try to bring that point also to your attention. Writing is a process. Everybody knows, but still it is good to know, good to come back to the basics, because as we pray, perhaps whoever believes in the Almighty, as they make prayer, perhaps it is good to remember the basics every day. And now let me go ahead and see further raise issues. And first of all, what do we mean by a skill? The skill is the ability. Writing as a skill. That is the part of caption that I have taken. That is the part of the caption that I have. Writing as a skill. But first of all, what is a skill? Skill is something that one does with ease, and one accomplishes with ease, and almost in an effortless manner, a seemingly effortless manner. That is skill. Okay, writing as a skill. So how to achieve this skill? Because skill demands practice. As I already warned you, because the student also warned me right at the beginning, I warned you, I am going to discuss the mundane, the ordinary, because the ordinary is missing in our system, the basic is missing in our system. Where are we practicing the skill of writing? We say writing is a skill and speaking is a skill, even perhaps, but not perhaps, it is obvious, listening is a skill. Reading is a skill, reading intelligently, in a comprehending manner, listening, grasping. All these needs practice. Okay, anyway, coming back to writing, are we practicing? Are we allowing our students to practice it? Are we giving space for practicing of writing skill? Whatever be the discipline, I told you already, whether it is MA program or MSc program or some other sciences or arts or commerce, whatever it may be. It is always given a backseat. So we admit that it is a skill. Skill demands practice. And you know very well how most of you might have picked up the driving skill, or some singing skill, or speaking skill, or some other skill through practice only. Writing demands the same practice. By wishing and dreaming, we cannot become great writers. It demands actual practice. So that is what I would like to bring to your attention. I say I'm not saying any revelatory information, but I'm bringing the very basic issue that involves writing. You need to practice. The system should allow you to practice. The whole curricula, the whole pedagogy Rather, pedagogy should give enough space for writing. Since, in fact, higher education demands this writing. This is what I feel, and I'm sure my learned colleagues over there, Professor Ramesh, and even the Vice Chancellor, sir, who actually did their PhDs outside India in the US, I'm sure they would agree with me immediately when I say the insistence is on students' effort. The insistence is on students' individual pursuit, which is reflected in the form of writing a proposal, completing a project, writing a dissertation of let us say a few pages, like 50, 100 pages. So this is what actually involves students. This, in fact, I would come to another important aspect: how higher education is basically democratic. Democratic in its nature, but because of our insistence on this teacher performance, teacher holding classes, let us say professor holding 14 hours classes, assistant professor holding 16-hour classes, this is good. But the more important point is the class time must be used to allow the student to perform. The performance can be in the form of oral performance or in the form of writing. This is what is missing, because higher education demands students' exploration, individual exploration of a given topic, given subject, exploring with a little bit of creativity, because knowledge is dynamic. Today, not only today, you agree, when a new information comes, so the old information will be phased out. So there is always scope for a new understanding of an old concept, an individual understanding of a known topic, an individualized understanding. So the student has a role to play in higher education scenario by their active involvement in practical terms, by way of writing. By way of writing, taking up a topic. Of course, it could be a term paper. It could be an assignment, and perhaps what we can do is we can familiarize them with the formats of term paper, assignment, dissertation, thesis, and allow them to do. And I already told you, this is very important, that the students' written records must be evaluated by us, must be commented on by us, instead of giving them a cursory look. So writing as a skill, anyway, coming back to writing as a skill, demands practice. Practicing writing of dissertation, if not dissertation, term paper, assignment, in a realistic manner, in a sincere manner, and apportioning appropriate time for that. So this is what I would like to suggest here, because that is the way we can improve writing skill. We cannot improve writing skill by discussing writing skill. But writing skill is something to be practiced, because we already agreed a skill needs to be practiced, like driving, like singing, like swimming. Unless you practice, unless one practices, one cannot become a master and adept at that. My humble appeal and real hunch is maybe all of us are responsible for this, and even students themselves are partly responsible for not realizing this particular required practice. What are we doing? Though actually, when I was a student in Andhra University, we had a year-end examination pattern. Just imagine, year-end examination, where a student sits in a class for about 8 months or 7 months and just does writing only at the end of the year. In between, there was no writing performance, no individual performance. Students were made to sit and follow, as I told you, Shruti and Shruti and Smriti traditions. Those traditions have their own value. I am not totally objecting, but they are not relevant to higher education. Higher education that we have adopted. So writing skill, writing as a skill, and writing has a great role to play in the contemporary higher education system. So that is what I would like to bring to your attention. Okay, now, okay, here, as I said already, we have to acquire the skill. That demands a sort of proactive participation, a sort of proactive participation on the part of student, and proactive indulgence on the part of teacher. I am using indulgence on the part of teacher, whether the teacher, lecturer, professor. That indulgence is needed. So, this, as I already mentioned, a skill cannot be acquired or earned just by wishing, by dreaming about, by talking about. We can improve our skill. We can improve our skill by way of actually practicing it. So until now, I tried to discuss what is already the obvious, because a skill demands practice. Writing as a skill demands practice. The whole pedagogy must be tuned to that, especially master's programs of any nature. That is what is needed. Then only writing skill. This is the implication. In the title, I said, what are the implications? When we say routinely, we say writing skill. But what are the implications? The implications are this: that involvement is needed, participation is needed, and a sort of sincere involvement, sincere participations are needed on both sides. Now, having discussed this much, and let me go ahead. Let me go ahead and say how this writing skill and higher education are connected. How are they connected? Let us see that. The foundations of higher education lie deep in writing in an informed, knowledgeable, and creative way. Yes, I'm using the expressions. Higher education, the whole edifice, the whole structure of higher education stands on writing skill, which is informed, knowledgeable, and creative. Yeah, writing skill demands these qualities. It is not merely reproducing factual information. Higher education always insists on creativity on the part of the pursuer, on the part of the participant of higher education. So, but unfortunately, this is what is missing here. In the first place, we are not giving much emphasis on the writing performance of student in a periodical manner through a semester. And in fact, still even now, somehow, because of various reasons, various social reasons, political reasons, cultural reasons, still we are believing in semester and examination, effect, semester and examination importance. Perhaps this would not actually suit the spirit of higher education, because what is required is a sort of continuous assessment and evaluation of individual students' writing performance. Of course, there could be oral presentations also, no doubt about that. And when we talk about oral presentations, we are no better in that. I'm sure you agree with me. Our students talk, but not inside the class. Our students are talkative, not on the public fora. So this is, the reasons are obvious. I don't want to go into that. But as long as we discuss writing as a skill and the connection between writing skill and higher education, we have to talk about this reality, which is not really palatable. It is unpalatable reality, whatever be the discipline. For example, when you take a subject like literature, any literatures in English or literature in our own languages, definitely it is centered upon individual students' experiential performance, experiential response. That is what contemporary theory insists upon. But are we giving enough space for that, for the realization of individual students' experiential reflections in the form of writing? Still, we are making them to listen to a professor, who goes sort of goes into a mood, forgetting the reality of the classroom. So this is what I would like to bring to your attention. So before I go further, I would like to share with my students, friends especially, and my colleagues are also there, and research scholars are also there. Unless we make a major shift, a paradigm shift, the writing skill cannot be improved, and the writing as a skill will not be recognized in the real sense. So we say writing is a writing skill, but we are not using it properly. We are not facilitating it at all. Because of, as I told you now, of course, it is a little bit harsh observation that the written assignments and term papers, maybe even I would stop there. Written assignments and term papers. I would not talk about year-end examination, semester-end examination papers, scripts of the students. Are they evaluated? Are they commented and written to the students? How do students improve unless feedback is given to them? So writing skill demands feedback on the giving feedback to the students, whatever be the discipline. Whether proper structure is followed, whether proper language is used, because these are elements, these are important aspects. Structure is very important because there are various, various types of writing are there, various genres are there. Each genre demands a specific way of writing. Are we commenting upon them in writing and giving it back to students? Are we training them? Training in following the genre specific features of students' writings? So this is what I would like to bring to your attention. So writing as a skill and its implications, these are the implications. The implications are the students' active participation and the teachers' indulgence in that, professors' indulgence in that. I would say professors rather, not a teacher. Professors most of the time, perhaps me also, we are satisfied with our performance, classroom performance, but we are not actually allowing the student to perform. Master's education, higher education, definitely even undergraduation to some extent demands students' performance. That is the spirit of higher education, because higher education is not teacher-centered at all. Maybe this is what is undoing us, undoing our very edifice of higher education. Why are we failing to come up with a proper proposal? Why are our students failing to come up with a research proposal properly? Because they were never allowed to write, even never encouraged to write. Even on their own also, they never had that inclination to write because it was not insisted upon. So, this is what I would like to put before you: the cardinal connection, the cardinal, vital connection between writing skill and higher education. Writing is not, I repeat, not mechanical reproduction of facts, but imaginative way of dealing with the facts. Not only in the area of literature, even in the area of commerce and management, even in the area of science subjects, a little bit of imagination is needed on the part of master's student and research student, research scholar. So this is what I would like to present to you. And anyway, having taken up the obvious topic, and I fear the information is already known to all of you, because whatever I am going to share with you, why writing is prioritized over Shruti and Smriti traditions. Why writing is more valid, more dependable, more trustworthy than something that is based on hearing and remembering, because writing is verifiable, reusable, and it shows the commitment on the part of the writer. It is replicable, it can be chronicled and preserved, And on top of everything, it is a deliberate attempt. It is a thoughtful attempt. It is a processed effort. That's why writing has that validity, that importance. It is verifiable. It is reusable. It can be chronicled, recorded. And the source of writing is a processed way of bringing out the output. So this is the nature of writing skill, writing. But it is a skill. It demands practice. Okay, with I'm not standing above or aloof from the rest of my colleagues, but it is a question to you, to me. Are we giving space, opportunity for students to practice writing an essay on a particular theory, on a particular literary text, on a particular concept, theory, anything, whatever be the discipline? So as long as we don't apportion an appropriate space, opportunity for writing cannot be practiced. If writing is not practiced, it can never become a skill. So we are in a vicious circle. As far as my knowledge is concerned, my experience is concerned, what are we doing is something that is going against the interest of the student as far as the writing skill is concerned. I would like to put it in that way. So having discussed the nature of writing, and the nature of writing skill, let me go for a little further and see how to realize writing as a skill. How to realize it? I already mentioned. Everybody knows it is a commonplace information. But it is good to remind you commonplace, because my young friends may not be over there, may not be knowing sometimes. But some students may be in the know of this information. Writing is a process. Writing is a process. Please remember, it is a process. It doesn't happen like rain happens. Good writing doesn't happen as rain happens. It has certain steps to be carried, certain steps to be fulfilled, certain structures and formats to be followed. If you are writing letters, the official letter, business letter, personal letter, there are formats. If you are writing a term paper, assignment, there are formats. If you are writing a dissertation, thesis, there is a format. Knowledge of this format is very important. You have to fit your information into the format. This is a part of the process. This is one of the steps in the act of writing. So that needs to be practiced. The more we practice, the better we become. My only hunch, my only appeal, my only fear is we are not giving due consideration, due recognition, due importance in practice for this reality. We say writing is a process, but we should allow that to happen in the classroom, or be given a task like that and see how a student is actually coming out of this task. So I said already, writing is a process. There are steps to be followed. Let us see what are those steps. Maybe a little more detailed way. There are two things, perhaps two phases. Pre-writing activity. Before you write, there is a pre-writing phase. You need to, this is a commonplace information. I fear even to share or say something, because I feel that I am discussing something that is obvious, but it is good to discuss the obvious. Writing has two phases. One is pre-writing activity. I want my young students to understand this. As you know, once you know that, you know the format, you know the process, you will definitely become successful in due course of time. So what is the pre-activity? Pre-activity of writing. Pre-activity is brainstorming. Writing, I already said, doesn't happen like rain. It demands fulfillment of certain prerequisites. certain prerequisites. It demands brainstorming, collecting ideas, putting on paper, and reviewing. If you are writing a term paper, assignment, or even a dissertation, review the previous work. So imagine this is all pre-writing activity. That's why don't be disheartened if you are not successful in the first attempt. As long as you follow, then definitely you will become successful. So but that pre-writing activity is very much important. You have to think about the topic that you are going to write. You have to make brainstorming. You have to collect ideas, put them on a paper, review. And of course, sometimes it involves data collection and understanding about the keywords. And then after that, the actual writing demands draft writing. This is already known. When I told you I'm hesitating, draft writing. All serious writings have been done in this way only. There is a pre-writing activity, there is a draft writing activity, which is followed by editing. You should be ready to edit your own writing. You should not say, once I have written, I will never touch. As a student in a higher education scenario, you need to edit your writing, think about what you have written, and finally rewrite whatever that may be, whether it is a proposal, research proposal, or a term paper, assignment, or anything. That rewriting is important. This is the process of writing. I repeat, some of you are already aware of it. Some of you are already practicing. But whatever I'm saying, that is for the benefit of participants who might not be very much aware, or who might be expecting a sort of sudden metamorphosis. So it all depends on your practice. I'm coming back because we say writing is a skill. When you say it demands practice. Practice of writing of any genre, even criticism, even proposals, anything, analysis. So writing as a process, I'm sure you agree with me. And what are the requirements of format is there already, process is there, and then what are the other issues? What are the requirements? You require, as I already mentioned, you have to have a model, a format. Across the disciplines, all PhD theses are based on a common model. So you need to know format. And then, of course, you have to have command on your language, including spelling, including punctuation, and proper ordering of your narration or writing, and maintaining proper syntax. These are very fundamental, ordinary, but you must acquire command over this. You have to have necessary vocabulary. It's a simple thing. Writing can become successful only when you have the necessary vocabulary. If you, for example, your VC sir said technical writing. Technical writing demands separate vocabulary. You need to acquire that vocabulary. You need to make the effort. It doesn't come automatically. So writing demands a sort of constant practice, constant observation, constant equipping yourself with the requirements. So structure, command over language. So these are the common requirements for writing at any stage of writing. And now let me just move on to further and see one more important thing. I already said, anyway, until now we try to discuss some commonplace information. That commonplace information is writing is a skill, and what do we mean by skill, and how to improve writing skill, and writing as a process. These are some of the issues that we have discussed. These are all familiar, but it is good to know again, good to know about them again. And now, having said this much, I already raised right at the beginning that my intention is not only to understand the implications of writing as a skill, but even its connection with higher education, its umbilical connection with higher education. My point is, higher education definitely demands a very great skill in writing, great involvement in writing. That is the spirit of higher education. And of course, presenting what you have written, that is, of course, secondary. So now that we agree that writing as a skill and higher education are interdependent, interconnected, and actually they support each other. This is very clear. And in this area of writing in higher education, perhaps there are three approaches: writer-centeredness, reader-centeredness, and genre-centeredness. I already said writer-centeredness in higher education, writer-centeredness in writing in higher education. Is it acceptable? Can writing in higher education be writer-centered, be student-centered, be research scholar-centered? Yes, we can say. I already shared my view. Pursuit of higher education is subjective, deliberate, experiential. Pursuit of higher education is subjective, deliberate, experiential. Notwithstanding the facts of the area, facts of the domain, but your experience matters. That is what we are calling as research. We know it is a commonplace information that a good number of research scholars working on a particular author repeatedly. But each research scholar has his own experience, his own approach to a particular topic or particular author. So writer-centeredness is there. Before I go further, let me just make a comment that we mentioned writer-centeredness, reader-centeredness, and genre-centeredness. A combination of these three make writing in higher education, writing skill in higher education. So whatever you write in higher education at master's and research level, it is writer-centered. And please remember, it should be reader-centered also, because you must know who your audience are, who your readers are. And thirdly, it must be genre-centered. It must be topic-centered. It must be subject-centered, discipline-centered. That care must also be taken, because an analysis on a topic of literature is definitely different from, genre-wise speaking, is different from an analysis of an engineering topic, a technical topic. So that genre specificity is very important. Okay, now let me just say a few more things regarding what is the meaning of writer-centeredness in writing skill in a higher education area. Higher education being democratic in principle, I already said higher education in principle is democratic. It gives importance to the opinions of students, research scholars, and for that point, it is always subject. The area of knowledge or area of information is subject to modification. So it is democratic. In the sense, it is receptive to modifications, venturing into paradigm shifts, and having tendency to grow. How does knowledge grow? Knowledge in any area, in any discipline grows, increases, enhances with the interventions of individuals and their experience. Of course, this intervention, their experience is subjected to verification. In that way, my point is, as you agree with me, because it is also commonplace information, knowledge is not static. Knowledge is not static, and each stakeholder in the pursuit of knowledge has a role to play. Hence, the writing in higher education has not only the responsibility, but also has a right to be individualistic. Writing skill in higher education has two dimensions. It has responsibility and it has right also. Right on the part of the writer, on the part of the student, on the part of the research scholar, on the part of anybody for that point. They have right to say what they want to say. They have right to express or interpret a context, a situation, an issue in the way they have felt. That is what we are considering as contemporary criticism. It is there is nothing like universal acceptance of any idea, or universal experience is also not there today. It is very clear. Because that's why I said higher education in principle is democratic. It is subject to change. As a democracy constantly accepts changes, modifications, improvements. As it has been agreed, the domain of higher education and knowledge or information thereof is never static. So I'm saying this because writer-centeredness on the part of writer, maybe a student, maybe a research scholar, maybe a teacher, maybe a writer of an article, they have place, they have a say. This dynamic situation, yes, knowledge is dynamic. We know very well. That's why we have a series of theories, a series of developments in the domain of knowledge. It is dynamic. So since the area of knowledge, the area of discussion is dynamic, the writing skill must be democratic, must be flexible, must allow the writer to be a little bit imaginative, because out of imagination only new developments will happen, new ideas will come into picture, whatever be the discipline. Imagination is important. Why I'm saying this is this awareness of democratic spirit of higher education allows individualistic, writer-centered writing. So writing as a skill can be writer-centered, but it must also have, it must also carry with it reader-centeredness and genre specificity. Okay, when we say reader-centered, how can we say writing skill? So when we discuss writing skill, engage ourselves in writing skill, we should think about the readers of this writing, the users of the writing. So we must keep in mind the users of the writing, the readers of the writing, and accordingly, perhaps we need to tune our writing. From the perspective of vocabulary, from the perspective of syntax, so we have to take care about that. So readers have a place for effective writing skill. Readers' position must be taken into consideration. And having said this much, as I already referred to, another aspect, that is genre-centered. Writing skill is not common. It changes from genre to genre, from discipline to discipline, from context to context. Awareness of this fact is important. Of course, I already mentioned the example of letter writing, term paper writing, or academic writing. Rather, let us put it in that way. Perhaps that is the right way. Academic writing, non-academic writing, and journalistic writing. These are all various genres. So each of them has a set of requirements, a particular flavor, a particular ambience is there. So we as writers in the sense practitioners of writing skill, as practitioners of writing skill, must be aware of this aspect. Accordingly, according to genre, the writing format changes, writing vocabulary changes, even syntax also changes. Because if you are writing a lab report, perhaps a very straightforwardness is very much important. very plain approach is very much important. Straight approach, plain approach. So this is obvious. But when you get into the domain of literature, perhaps you can be complex. You can become complex as the topic itself, because the topic itself is complex. Maybe you would not find a full stop until the end of 10th line. But if you do the same thing in writing a lab report, a scientific report, I think that will be very much inappropriate. So genre, according to genre, writing style changes. That is also we need to remember, we need to recall right now. So I'm trying to bring to your attention how these the three approaches: writer-centered, reader-centered, genre-centered writing is a combination of these three is necessary for making a successful writing. So as I already told you right at the beginning, this is definitely an unenviable topic, because partly or mostly everything is known to everybody. Maybe I'm saying what is already known to you, but I believe this is just reminding you, perhaps reminding you or bringing to your attention again, because sometimes what we know, because of too much, rather I would put it in this way, we need to defamiliarize ourselves, because we know it already too much. So there is a need of defamiliarization of the requirements of writing as a skill. And first of all, what is writing? What is the meaning of skill? And what are the various types of writing? And what are the requirements? And what are the three approaches of writing? So this is what I would like to bring to your attention. And having said this much, maybe I would say a few formats. Actually, I should have shown you through PowerPoint the sort of format like, but the format is already known to you all. For example, imagine you are writing a research proposal. Even we're writing a sort of abstract for any writing, including your assignment. If you have an abstract, you can develop that abstract into a full-fledged paper. If you are writing an article, you can develop it into full-fledged by having 4 or 5 important points. I'm not showing them in the PowerPoint, but I'm sure you could follow me when I say this is the basic format. Basic format of a proposal, basic format of an abstract. You should have a title, not any title, but a title with purpose. And in the abstract should include brief introduction to the topic, or the related area, or the author, or the concept. And the abstract or proposal should also have a research question if you are discussing the format. This is a common format: title, and then brief introduction, and then research question, and the methodology that you use. And finally, not finally, but what is the expected outcome, hypothesis. And finally, significance and relevance of your research attempt or article attempt or your term paper, because all these are ultimately based on inquiry, research and inquiry. So what is the relevance? So this is the common format. When you ensure this basic format, your writing becomes successful and functional. So functionality is very much important. That's why I have tried here to mention these. You start with the title, you give a brief introduction, you will come to research question, the research question in the sense, what are you inquiring about? What are you going to deal with? What are you going to discuss? And then what is your methodology? So please see, serious academic and research writing demands methodology. This is part of writing as a skill. When we say writing as a skill, this is the implication. What is your methodology? Is it textual analysis or a sort of opinion-based, survey-based, experiment-based? And finally, I mean, as I said, even before you develop your paper, if you have a hypothesis before you, expected outcome, what am I going to achieve, or what am I targeting? If you can have in a temporary manner before you, in an ad hoc manner before you, you will have direction. And finally, am I making an inquiry or a research or writing about something that is sensible, that is relevant? You have to make sure for yourself. This is part of writing skill. Writing demands format. Format is not a mechanical observation. It is to ensure functionality and quality and purpose. And having said this much, I already raised one important, Professor Ramesh and Dr. Jyotirmayi, can I take 5 more minutes?
Yeah, please.
Sure, sir.
Yeah, right, thank you. And I already made a reference to the role of teacher, role of lecturer, role of professor in teaching writing skill, or in ensuring writing and practice of writing on the part of student. So how to make it a reality? Of course, in a very candid manner, in a frank manner, I pointed out the writings of students are not properly marked, commented, and returned. So in continuation of that, what I say is, if at all we are serious, we have to be serious. There is no other go, because I already told you, writing and higher education are interdependent. They are complementary, to say the least. They complete each other. Because the very higher education that we have, which we adopted from the West, which is beyond Shruti and Smruti traditions, is more based on individual students' performance. A detailed performance, an elaborate performance on the part of the student, that we are forgetting, we are ignoring. How do we achieve quality, excellence? So that's why the teacher has a big role to play, a very big role to play, very indulgent role. I use the word indulgence, kind indulgence, because most of the time students in the state universities, they come from somewhat problematic socio-cultural political backdrops. They need this indulgence, they need this kindness, they need this orientation. Without that, I am sure we are undoing our students. In the long run, we are undoing ourselves. So we have to ensure the practice of writing skill in the classroom by way of assigning them tasks, jobs, which will facilitate writing. I know, I am sure you agree, if somebody writes something, if that is not commented on, the person who writes feels bad. It is a sort of insult to the writer, whoever is the writer. The writer may be an article writer or a student or whatever it may be. So let us come out of that self-ruining situation. Okay, having said this much, I don't mean to make harakiri, a sort of self-ruination like, but I'm making, I'm trying to make something substantial out of a commonplace topic. Maybe that attempt is also there here, because the topic is commonplace, not exotic. So I have to bring sense to the topic, or vitality to the topic. So that's why I'm saying whatever I am saying, because that is the need of the hour. But it doesn't mean to make harakiri here, but to remind ourselves, because we are a stakeholder, students are stakeholder, the establishment is the stakeholder. Maybe because we are always talking about quality, we are always talking about enhancement of quality of students, because as the Vice Chancellor sir said, when even presently our students have many difficulties. Students who actually come out of universities with the PhD, the highest degree, still have difficulty in doing certain very basics. So basics. So we need to we need to change. That is very much important. Okay, now if I don't mention globalization, I think it will be incomplete because today we are in the age of globalization. My point is, does the writing skill have anything to do with globalization? Yes, definitely. Notwithstanding Corona, COVID-19, I'm sure we will overcome this as we perhaps overcame many other maladies, many other pandemics in the past. Our situation is obviously globalized. We know we are already in a globalized condition. So what we write must be culturally sensitive. It must be clear. So our writing must have clarity, cultural sensitivity, and global acceptance. So that standard must be there. That's why I mentioned the necessity of following formats. Following format doesn't mean taking out your individuality or putting aside your individual expression. They are not contradictions. They can go together. So in the globalized scenario, definitely good writing ability takes you a long way, especially in the area of technology, science and technology, even in the area of humanities, because it is ultimately what you write, starting with the CV. I mean, I'm mentioning very mundane thing, even starting with a job application to an international organization. It has importance. So our writing must be having internationally accepted standards. Standards doesn't, the standards do not mean something hi-fi language and complexity, but ensuring of minimum quality, minimum standards, and adherence to format. These are very important. And cultural sensitivity is also culture of other nations. When we write what we should say, what we should not say, is also very important as far as formal correspondence is concerned. So thank you very much, dear participants and my respected colleagues over there. With this, I would like to stop here. Thank you, Dr. Jyotirmay.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Sir, Ramesh, sir, you can coordinate questions.
Yes. Sir, first of all, congratulations, because you have given a very exhaustive address. I mean, a very pertinent topic. In fact, from the chat box, I can understand that many of the students are very appreciative of your concern. I would rather say a plea for writing skills. So at the higher education level, more than an address, it is more of a plea. Yes, we do agree that our students are deficient when it comes to writing skills, and it is not, we should not blame the students for that, but it is our system, I mean, that should make, and as teachers, we are more responsible for that, and we should teach them, train them, and do make, as you suggested rightly, practice it in the classroom so that they will be ready. Because I'm seeing questions, sir. There is a couple of questions from international students also, from Rhino, maybe from Burundi, I think, perhaps your former student. He was asking if there is any
Rhino from Indonesia.
Yeah, okay. From any specific method, technique, or certain approaches that we can try in order to improve our English writing skills in terms of writing speed. So I myself face this issue. My role in the area of customer service demands me to reply hundreds of emails every day using English languages. So I think he's expecting some sort of a remedy or some sort of a methodology for improving his writing skills, or maybe perhaps that may be the question for all the participants here, sir. Can you respond on that?
Yeah, thank you, Professor Ramesh, for your encouraging words, because I need that. Having dealt with a commonplace topic, I am repeating this. Even after having accepted, I also felt slightly uneasy, because is there anything that I can say afresh? That was my initial doubt. but having committed myself, I could not go backwards. Okay, now coming to Rhino's question. Already we discussed the required approach.
Yeah.
Already we mentioned, genre specificity, because since this particular international student now after MA English, he says he is in customer service. That genre demands a different vocabulary, a different structure, different ambience approach rather. So accordingly, one has to write back if there is a correspondence. It's because customer service, we know very well how they use sort of pleasing words. That is there, how they try to, because business is involved, it doesn't mean that they should tell lies. But anyway, whatever they present, that should be a sort of friendly communication will be there, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, yeah. Thank you.
So, any more questions? Ramana Gupta, I think, has raised the hand. Is he there? Ramana? Okay.
I see 2 hands.
Yeah. I'm just waiting for them to respond. Please respond. Those who have raised their hands, please. Raga, Maunika, yes, please. Maunika, please respond. Please unmute yourself and you can come on video also.
Right.
Maunika?
Webmaster, Srinvaster. Raga Maunika, unmute chestara video kuda. Question adugutundi.
Sir, madam.
Sir, Raga Maunika, mana student, she has a question. Unmute chestara tanki.
Okay, madam.
Good afternoon, sir. I am Raga Monica from MA English first year from Nannaya University, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, audible.
Yeah. My question is, I'm a budding content writer, sir. I want to be a content writer and I've started doing it. But the problem is I have many competitive people like from different niches. There are students from engineering background, commerce background. But I want to know, are there any tactics or skills that I can improve to stand out this competitive world of content writing, sir?
Rajan Prasad, please unmute yourself. Rajan Prasad Gar, please unmute yourself. Professor Rajan Prasad, can you unmute yourself? Okay. Yeah.
Hello? Already the student Monica, I guess, she said that she is in a competitive world. So competitive, when we are in a competitive world, actually today's world is already competitive for everybody. And the student says she is attempting something, content writing in a competitive world. In competitive world, success demands quality. Success demands excellence. So perhaps you are very young, I understand, because though you are I could not see you, I understand that you are an MS student, so you have a long way to go. Go ahead with confidence and try to improve. You have to acquire that excellence. That is the way, because you said it is a competitive world. What is the secret of success in a competitive world? The secret of success in a competitive world is quality, excellence. So as long as you try and improve, I'm sure you will outwit others. That is all I can say. I don't know there is any shortcut to content writing per se straight away, because yes, you said you are in a competitive world, right?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Competitive means you have to try hard. Try hard and improve your performance and attract the attention of the market.
Yes, sir, will do. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, sir, can I add a line? Actually, she's our student only. We keep on saying in the class to practice writing or LSRW, the skills. And of course, as Leslie Alexander Hill says, to improve writing, writing is the only choice. We don't have any mantra. I used to say we don't have any open system mantra for all LSRW skills. It is only the practice, as you have rightly pointed out, sir. So Ragamonika, you have to go on with confidence and with excellence, as sir says. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Sir,
Will do. Thank you,
Ramesh, sir. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some more questions,
Hello.
I think.
Good afternoon, sir.
Hello.
Yeah,
Hello.
please. Yeah.
Sir, I'm Ashok from Usman University.
Yeah, please, Ashok.
Here, is there any difference between the literature and non-literature writing, sir? And if you look at the colonial or post-colonial, similarly, Elizabethan writers, they never and ever practice. They have that creativity. So, what is your stand on this, sir?
Right. Thank you. I think it is not one question. It is a set of questions. A set of questions.
Yes, yes.
In the first place, there is obvious difference between literary and non-literary writings. You know that is obvious, because let us say literary definitely allow space for great creativity, great a sort of great imagination. It definitely allows. But whereas non-literary writings, like non-fictional, perhaps we should say, fictional writing and non-fictional writing, even non-literary also we may say, it is more based on factuality of situation. However, non-fictional or non-literary writings, they also have their own creativity. So for example, Shashi Tharoor from Midnight to Millennium, it is basically a non-fictional text, but still we could see a great imagination. Similarly, Arundhati Roy's The End of Imagination. You could see great imagination in discussing a very much factual aspect. So creativity has a place in all writings. In fact, I added one more important thing. I wish you, not only you, others focused on that. My hunch is the higher education actually demands creative writing only, imaginative writing only. So anyway, that is all I can tell right now. Both genres have place and space for creativity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Madam, shall we conclude?
Sir, one more. I think Professor Narasimha Rao sir is here, sir.
Yeah.
Sir has a question actually in the chat box. Sir is here. I've seen him.
Narasimha Rao. Okay, you can read out the question perhaps.
Read out the question. It is Vamsi Krishna, some participant. He says to comment on the weakness of postmodern perspective based on moral and religious value education.
Yeah, I answered it. I answered it in the chat box.
Yeah, he answered.
Chat box, sir. Okay, sir. Okay, right.
I answered him privately.
Oh, okay, sir.
I answered him privately, and what I answered was, I think it is in the chat box. I told him.
You posted privately, so we couldn't get it.
I would like to, yes, I answered him. Postmodernism accepts religion from the perspective of mysticism, which ideally includes the exercise of finding new possibilities and experiencing the impossible, while the modern philosophy is restricted by the limitations of human knowledge. So postmodernism placed itself outside possible, the place of possibility, and at the same time, it also placed outside language. That's why postmodernism, there is no weakness in postmodernism. It accepts religion in a new form that is called mysticism. So this is what we can see in Blake's poems and the Prahalada's songs to Lord Vishnu. So religion does not conform to reasoned approach, and it dabbles in what is cited as mysticism. This new brand of religion can be seen in Rabindranath Tagore, what we can see in Gitanjali, the poems of Gitanjali, the stanzas that we have in Gitanjali, and Aurobindo Ghosh's mysticism and Nissim Ezekiel's poems, and the fictional writings of Raja Rao, the mystic writings of Raja Rao, and who is also a myth maker, and Arun Joshi and Karan Bajaj. So that's what I answer.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Sir, shall we conclude, sir?
Yeah, please.
Yeah. Sir, a big thanks to both the speakers, sir. You make our day really. And we have a formal concluding remarks by Nagendra Sharma, our department scholar. Sharma, over to you. Sharma? Nagendra Sharma, are you here?
Ma'am, yes, ma'am. I'm
yeah.
here, ma'am.
Please proceed.
Audible, ma'am?
Yeah, audible. Please proceed.
Good afternoon, everyone. It has been a wonderful seminar, actually, very knowledge giving, enlightening, at the same time improving all the perspectives on the title topics of the seminar.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, okay.
So please, others, please mute.
Beginning Thanksgiving, we would like to thank our Honorable VC, Professor Mokka Jagannatha Rao sir, and the Registrar of the University, Professor T. Ashok sir, Principal of Arts and Commerce College, Professor S. Teki sir, Senior Most Professor, Professor S. Ramesh sir, and the convener and the head of the Department of English, Dr. Jyotirmayi ma'am. So both of our speakers, Professor K. Narasimha Rao sir and CHA Rajendra Prasad sir, has given their important and illuminating perspectives on the topics they have picked up. And let us, for a moment, for a couple of minutes, revisit the important points they have talked over the topics. So Professor K. Narasimha Rao sir, talking about the background of postmodernism in Indian contemporary Indian literature, has talked about the pluralistic premises in contemporary Indian English literature. So he has talked about the postmodern tendencies of conflicting tendencies of coexisting, and he also talked about the post-colonialism going towards post-colonialism. So before talking about the postmodernism in Indian contemporary literature, he has talked about how post-colonial literature deals with native culture and how it is not just simply obsessed with the wrongs of colonial times. He has talked about how postmodern tendencies right now in contemporary literature are not just prescriptive but more descriptive in nature. He has also illuminated the ideas of hedonism and overtly religious conservatism being hand in hand, showing the pluralistic nature of the society we are living in. He illuminated the themes of postmodernism in the following manner. He talked about the coexistence of contradicting tendencies, and he talked about how mass media is showing its impact, showing its omnipresent impact on the potential, and shows the potential marks of postmodernism. He talked about how the present world is understood and perceived as a simulacra that is being a virtual truth more than the real truth. And he has also talked about how history is manipulated in postmodern condition, how reading of prehistory, gaining various perspective and illuminating over the marginalized is being the main focus in postmodern condition. He also talked about myths and legends and how the colonizers have tried to bash out the myths by injecting their science and reason in the colonized lands. He has talked about language, how postmodernism is an interrogation towards language, and how text has no credibility. And he has given a haunting example of a serpent eating its own tail, providing an example of how a postmodern text eats itself. And he has also illuminated regarding the topics which the modern writers are taking up, such as transgression of tradition in the writings of Sasidesh Pandey, Jhumpa Lahiri, Chitra Banerjee Devakarni, and also Arundhati Roy and Salman Rushdie. He has talked about politics, how once these meta narratives or mega narratives have sort of making out with the society, making away with the society. But this day, the nations are strengthening because of various socio-political conditions. And at the end, he has given us one precious suggestion that in the postmodern view, the world is unintelligible and we shouldn't make it intelligible. Thank you so much, sir. You have given us precious perspectives over how postmodernism should be viewed and how postmodernism theories should be applied on Indian texts and Indian authors to understand their ideas in a better way. And then our second speaker, Professor C.H.A. Rajendra Prasad, sir, from Dravidian University, has taken up, saying he has taken up a mundane topic but ended it, making it, taking us from cloud 9 to cloud 19, giving us more important and interesting views and suggestions both to the students and to the academicians and to the academia, how to understand the importance of writing skill and how to improve ourselves. And he has also provided a lot of inspiration along with his emotional speech. The intonation in his talk was so inspiring. It was so emotionally moving. So let us see a few important points he has imbibed and embedded his speech with. He beginning with a coinage of word, writative, writative activity being less encouraged in this contemporary Indian academic of higher education. He has talked about how we are still hanging with education system that is based on listening and remembering, but not on performance. He has given a great deal of, he has expounded a great deal of theory on how performance should be given importance, be it oral or be it written, but writing being the main, taking the main importance or the limelight of today's seminar. So he has highlighted one ideal, that higher education should be a creative process basing on presentation, both writing and speaking. He has talked about the involvement of students in a thoughtful and creative manners, making education or higher education a more dynamic process than what it is presently being. He has given various examples marking the importance of how today's education system should be more student centric rather than teacher centric, because he has said it openly. It is very inspiring being this open that today's education is being more tended towards the teacher's performance rather than the student's performance, and this should change in the other way. He has given precious suggestions to the present teachers and also to all of us who will be teachers in the next few years, that teachers should evaluate assignments of students, not just assignments but any written piece of information they have written, because that is what will encourage the students to write more and to bring out more from their side. And he also talked about how higher education should need informality, knowledge, and creative writing skill development. And he has given us three important suggestions. Writing should be facilitated, means guided by teachers, and feedback should be given because that is what gives the encouragement. And he also said there should be a cordial connection, quoting him, there should be a cordial connection between writing skill and higher education. And although all of this in his words is very well known or subconsciously known to all of us, he has tried to some kind of deconstruct the writing process and how it should be understood and how it should be practiced by giving three steps. The first step is pre-writing phase, the second step writing phase, that is drafting phase, and the third step post-writing phase, that is editing phase. In the pre-writing phase, the most important of all, because I have read recently somewhere, writing is not hard, but knowing what to write is more harder. So in the pre-writing phase, one should brainstorm, one should collect ideas or data, and one should review the previous work written regarding the same topic, and one should understand the keywords he is going to use in the write-up he's going to produce. And in the draft writing, he should be able to formulate all the ideas depending on the genre he's writing. He should be knowing the jargon he's using, and he should understand the format he's going to apply for the writing, and then he should conclude all the writing. And he has also given a precious suggestion that writing should not be done when the last full stop is kept. No, writing should always be reviewed by the writer himself. It should be edited by the writer himself. It is not like Charles Bukowski said, you write it and you keep it aside. No, we should be writing it and we should be editing it. The vocabulary and also the idea we're presenting. And from there, he has gone to the lens of telling that knowledge over structure and command over language are more important. He emphasizes it again and again. Command over language and knowledge over structure are important. And he has also talked about 3 kinds of writing. First thing is writer-centeredness, because he said writing is a democratic process. I loved the sentence. Writing is a democratic process. Means the writer who is conceiving the idea and who is putting it on the paper should have liberty, should have freedom in choosing the way he wants to express the idea. And the second one, it should also be reader-centered, because when Salman Rushdie wrote his novels, it is very hard for a layman to read, because it is not what we are aiming in academic writing. The reader should be able to understand what is being written. The reader should be able to take the information and grasp the point of view of the writer. So it should also be reader-centered. And the third one, genre-centered. Actually, Sir has already illuminated over the idea of genre-centered when he was explaining or elucidating over a doubt of someone very recently. Genre-centered depends on the jargon, on the formats, and on the process of writing one certain genre or one certain profession requires. So, and he has also taken the discussion of how basic formats of research articles should be, and how important the fundamentality, the quality, and the purpose. The 3 things: the fundamentality, the quality of, and the purpose should be. And at the end, he has concluded mentioning the importance of globalization, and he has suggested, just like the previous speaker, he has also given one final suggestion, and the most important suggestion of all, that one's writing should be clear, should be clearly culturally sensitive, and should be globally accepted. Sir, these 2 speeches have given us wonderful perspective over today's seminar, and I personally think these both seminars are seminally successful. Thank you for giving us all the knowledge, and also to the University of Adhikavi Nannaya. Thank you for giving this opportunity, both the students and everyone who is participating. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Madam, I think Veer Babu would like to add something.
Veer Babu, sir? Yeah. Veer Babu, you can.
Just add very briefly, Veer Babu.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Increase your volume.
Madam, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Increase your volume. Yeah.
Madam, first of all, good afternoon, everyone. And I would like to thank the CNU as the same time Vice Chancellor sir and Professor Ramesh sir and Dr. Jyotirmaya madam for giving this opportunity. Today I'm very happy, ma'am, because for 2 things. One thing is the webinar and symposium is so useful. At the same time, I'm seeing 2 of my lecturers and 2 of my professors when I was studying my PG in YN College. So I've been watching them together in the same scene. That is so exciting for me. And as you people said, ma'am, Professor Rajendra Prasad sir, this topic is very useful for the research scholars. And whatever the aspect and whatever the subject you explained as missing concentration on writing is correct, sir. Whatever I observed in the universities is that both the teachers and the students, they are not concentrating much on these writing skills. Briefly, I just want to ask you only one thing. If there are any specific activities which can be implemented at a graduation and master's level in the universities, so please suggest us. Otherwise, I'm happy to meet you all, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. And his name is?
Veer Babu.
Veer Babu, sir.
Veer Babu. Can you turn on the camera? I could. I don't know whether I could recognize you, but I would like to recognize you. From my memory.
What is your batch? You tell the batch.
2001, sir. 2001.
2001. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Veerubabu, Dr. Veerubabu. I don't know. Thank you very much.
He will be a doctor soon.
Yeah, he will become. Okay, coming to the issue that you raised, you were asking. I'm sorry. What did you say?
Any specific activities apart from regular activities, which can be implemented
to improve your writing skills.
I already mentioned in my presentation, the whole pedagogy must be changed. Maybe in a practical way, instead of our emphasis on semester and examination, we can insist upon continual assessment, which would be based on students' writing performance and of course presentation of the same. Even today, still we are putting more thrust on the semester end. It is the ratio is 30-70. Maybe we should change this because we can trust because ultimately the same faculty will evaluate the semester and examination.
Exactly.
So it is better. That could be one practical way of involving students and faculty in the improvement of writing skill, in the practice of writing skill. Mr. Veerubabu.
Yeah. I'll just add to what Professor Rajendra Prasad said. Professor Rajendra Prasad and the senior faculty here must be knowing the name of Professor C.T. Indra. She is from a professor of Madras University.
Yes.
And when I have been to their seminars conducted by the university, some of her students used to tell me that she used to sit and correct what Professor Rajendra Prasad said, all the assignments, all their notes, and give comments on it. And thus, many of their students got improved. I mean, that's what Professor Rajendra Prasad has been emphasizing, that teachers should have the patience and sit there and go through all their assignments and presentations, whatever they do, and give comments and thus somehow improve their writing skills. Sir, we agree with you totally on that.
Thank you, Professor.
Some of our many senior teachers used to do that, yes, and we should also bring back that practice in our day-to-day teaching.
Yes.
Okay. So shall we conclude?
Sure.
Yeah. So it's a wonderful day, and let me thank both the speakers, Narasimha Rao and Professor Rajendra Prasad, for readily accepting my invitation. And we do look forward for more interaction, sir, at various levels, and hopefully we can meet in person also. Of course, virtual meeting is also good, but if we can do some other academic collaboration, both at FLU and Dravidian University, both are languages universities, and we do look forward for more collaboration from your side, sir. So thank you very much, and maybe the head of the department would like to conclude.
Yes, sir. This concluding remarks, actually, Nagendra Sharma, our scholar, has given a very detailed feedback for the speech given by both the scholars, sir, which was very useful, which will prove useful. Actually, we thought of, nearly 70 or 80 people, but it is double. Nearly 200 people have joined, sir. It's a very great attendance for us. And also, you people have made our day because we got so many feedback in the chat box. Both the lectures were very much need of the hour, and our students and also scholars and other participants, of course, will get benefited from your lectures, sir. We thank you very much for accepting, though it is a very short notice. And so, as Nagendra said, it is from cloud 9 to 19. Yes, we were from 9 to the mundane reality, but it's a very essential thing, sir. It's like patting our back and to go back to our fundamental duties as teachers also. You were very frank in making remarks that we appreciate, sir. And Professor Narasimha Rao, sir, of course, it is full of literature, postmodernist, etc., and all the analogies. That was also very useful, sir. And at last, we always thank our Honorable Vice Chancellor for encouraging us to organize such webinars or symposium. We made it a symposium, of course, on the virtual platform as our Vice Chancellor suggested. So with a big thanks, we conclude, sir. So we are closing the session today. I thank all the participants also who were patiently listening till now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, we can conclude. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Professor Narasimha Rao. We will meet
Thank you, sir.
sometime.
Thank you.
Professor Ramesh, many thanks.
Please,
See you.
please, both of you should visit the
Dr.
university.
Jyotirmayi, she
Yes,
has made
thank you.
great efforts.
Yes.